The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Speedball Mike Bailey. You're listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. Yosh.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith and Chris Samsa. On today's show, we will preview G1 Climax 33 and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, ProWrestlingTees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com. Frequently updated and with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Josh, Chris, it's G1 season, baby.
It is G1. The grade 1 climax is upon us. And bless you both for doing a show late in the week last week, so I don't have to talk about great shows with Strong, but we can dive right into the good stuff, and I didn't have to think about having takes. So I appreciate you.
Well, the conversation was something like this. It was like, so are we going to do all of that on the same episode that we cover the G1? And Jeremy's like, yeah. And I was like, you do realize this is the largest field that there's ever been, and we have Chris on, and we usually go really long. And he's like, yeah.
Sorry-ish.
No, it's not your fault. It's mostly us, but it was like,
I'll take some blame.
We're gonna have to do an episode and basically get that out of the way. So
our Independence Day review was late last week. In case you guys missed it, recorded a little bit late. So yeah, this whole show is going to be devoted to G1 Climax 33. We'll go through each block, each competitor, give our hot takes, give our anticipated matchups, some predictions, and yeah, just chat some G1.
Listen, I know we got to get into things, and I don't want to have too much ramble or whatever, but I have to get something off my chest. When I was setting up for the show today, I'm very anal about everything that being in its proper place. And for some reason, I don't know why, the zip tie that I had around the cord that I used to organize my camera, it's just gone. And I can't live like this. It's really freaking bothering me right now.
Oh, man.
Well, here's the problem, Josh. It's a zip tie. What are you doing?
Yeah, but it's one of the black one. It's a twist tie, not a zip tie. One of the black twist ties to keep
actually worse.
Yeah, that's what I use.
Get it together. Wait, what? So what is the function of this twist tie? It just keeps the cables together?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't live in disarray. I can't.
Oh, I see the background in that room. You're definitely not living in disarray. I don't know what's behind it though.
I mean, I guess we could expose my living condition. So we.
Is that a hostel?
So this is my office, and from behind the camera is like I've got all of my stuff, which is
sure.
very nice. You can't see
Bookshelf with many leather-bound books, I'm sure.
Yeah, rich mahogany.
Rich mahogany, yeah.
But we have a medically compromised dog that is epileptic. So when we leave, this room has to be pretty sparse in case he has like an episode. So there's really just cushion and like a bed and a rug here. That way, if little guy starts flip-flopping around, he doesn't get hurt. There's nothing in here except for my workspace and some of his stuff. That's basically, this is his room, essentially. He understands the command, go to your room. I don't know too many dogs that have their own room, but he does.
That rules. Good for him. And good for you, giving that dog a good, healthy, and safe life to live.
It's my girlfriend mostly. I'm just here.
So humble.
He's trying to put you over, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
here I am with my shoulders on the mat, and you're like,
I'll take it.
I gotta go do it.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I like to earn my victories. You know, it's got to be a shoot. No working around here.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's
off the rails. Here we go.
Let's bring it back. Let's talk about G1 here. So G133 is going to be running from July 15th to August 13th. Block matches this year have a total of 20-minute time limits. So this year we have 32 participants. This is the largest field in G1 Climax history and the most amount of competitors since 2022, last year's tournament. This will also run in a 4-block round-robin format for the second time since the year 2000. So last year we also had the 4-man 4-block tournament. And when block action is over, the top 2 wrestlers from each block will advance to an elimination phase of a quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. So we will have A1 versus C2, B1 versus D2, C1 versus B2, and then D1 versus A2. So that's the new format changes. I know we've kind of talked about it before, but just kind of thoughts real quick on the new changes to the format. Once again, 4 blocks, introducing a quarter finals. Last year we had a semifinals with the 4 blocks, but now we have a quarterfinals this year. So how are you guys feeling? Tournament coming up this Saturday, starting off. How do you feel about this format for this year?
I like it. I like the 4-block layout. 8 wrestlers per block is what I recommended. Well, not recommended, but that is what I had hoped for last year. And yeah, I like how the schedule played out too. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that, but there's kind of like 2 blocks that are like married. And then you get just block matches on most of these cards up until the final 4 block nights. So, and that's exciting, right? Because I think back to some of these great G1s that really got the fandom, hyped and excited. And it was 2012 and 2013 when like it was 10 block matches per night, which is, it was wild, but it was really engaging. And you could sit down and every now and then you got just a show, that just killed it from top to bottom. And I think there might be a show or 2 like that this year too. So, but yeah, having an even number of people, no buys, last year I had to do a lot of complex explaining of like breaks in people's schedules, and there were guys that didn't wrestle for 9 days at a time, and we won't see that this year. I think we'll have a better pace to the tournament, so I'm excited. I like, I don't mind the quarterfinal thing either. I like a knockout stage, and I think it'll be a good jumping in point too for people that maybe get lost along the way but didn't want to totally ignore the G1. So, when I'm thinking about driving the fandom, like, moving into either those final block nights or then even just the knockout stage, like those are good jumping in points too. So I hope that there's some big hype around the finals.
Well, I can't imagine there's too many people out there that have done much more analysis on the G1 than Chris. So I'm going to pretty much defer to him, whatever. I know that's not always my MO. I can be a little, argumentative, but in this case, who's going to know better than Chris as far as like the layout of the tournament? And that's why he's here. Couple things that I've noticed that I do like, and it kind of goes into what he mentioned. One of the benefits of last year's 4-block tournament was you sort of had more self-contained stories within each block. But one of the drawbacks was we got less, because of the scheduling and things like that, we got less great matches and we got less great overall cards, which is what, the G1's been known for so many years. So this year it looks like we have stronger cards top to bottom, which probably opens the door for more of those great, classic G1 evenings. But we're not sacrificing the storytelling device that was devised last year. And in fact, they seem to be improving on it, having certain themes in each block. And, last year's was pretty good, but this looks to be even more impressive. And there's just a lot more to kind of sink your teeth into. So overall, I'm very optimistic about this tournament. Of course, there might still be some growing pains, but it seems to be that they probably paid attention to last year's flaws and seem to work to improve them.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'm down with the format. I like the 4 blocks, and I do like that they added 4 more guys to get to 32. I like having, full block nights and having 2 blocks on the same night. So we know, all right, this is the A and B block night, C and D block night, and you're not having this weird thing like you're mentioning, Chris, like one guy doesn't, Tom Lawler didn't have his first match in the tournament until like 9 days in the tournament last year. So you had like weird stuff like that. So I think, with having it even and, this on and off night thing, I think it's going to work out really well. I'm really looking forward to that. And, when we're going into Super Juniors and they brought back the semifinals, I wasn't a huge fan going into it. But then when it played out, it added a lot more excitement to the tournament. So I'm all in for the quarterfinals and semifinals. I think it's going to add, just like it did for Super Juniors, add more buzz, more excitement, and just some unpredictability going into the final stretch.
Well, one thing I like about that, when it's a 2-block tournament and you have a playoff and you inevitably, they didn't do it this year, but at some point, if they stick with that format, you're eventually going to get a rematch of something that occurred in the block. And sometimes that can suck. But in a 4-block G1 format like this, there's so many different variables and stuff that go into it. You might get a match later on in the playoffs that you want to see a rematch of. Like, hypothetically, just throwing it out there, one of the biggest matches in the tournament, Okada versus Ospreay. What if somehow they both got through and then they got a rematch later in the playoffs through some series of events? That's something we probably all would want to see. You know what I mean? So there's a lot they can potentially do and play with. And I'm not even saying they're going to do that, but like with this large of field, there's so much unknowability. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and when it comes to those knockouts, right, like anything's plausible, right? So, and Ospreay and Okada in another, that was the G1 final last year. Would they do it again after also then doing it in the block? It depends how fast we need to move on the Ospreay story, right? So, and I think that there will be some, I don't want to say tells, but there might be some signs of wherever we're headed with Ospreay. So, but yeah, I mean, when it really comes down to it, what the whole point is that like anyone who gets into that final 8 could make it into the semis. Anyone who gets into that final 8 could make it into the final. You don't have to win, right? Like for it to be a big deal. And I think that this creates, a little more space for more guys to have their moment, whether that's in the quarters, the semis, or into the final. So, and I think that's good, especially right now when we're really throwing a lot at the wall to see what sticks. Right, we're throwing a bunch of guys out there, especially, I know we'll probably start by talking about the A block, but like, look at that. If you look at that block and you look at the inexperience, like these guys are just getting out there and getting in front of people and something's going to hit. And it might be something surprising and it might be something that we, those of us who've been paying attention kind of see coming. But, once you get into those knockout stages, that's a big spot for anyone who's in them. And no matter if you win or lose, like you got to show up for those and you gotta be a draw. So I'm very, very, very curious. All the booking is, historical booking stuff. Jay Michael over at Voices of Wrestling, like him and I, like we bounce stuff around all the time. And he goes really deep into the booking of the blocks. And I mean, even he is like, there can be no predictions this year. Like it's so like, because 2 guys go through too.
Yeah.
So like, if you just want to give someone some shine, you just put them through, and you have them, you bounce them in the quarterfinals. Like, but and we've seen them do that with all the single eliminations that they've added to the round robin tournaments. You know, we see that's been a trademark of the booking. So curious to see who gets that type of rub this year, because it's usually a sign of either, you know, mad respect, you know, Tama Tonga, right, going through. Like, that was a big thing to establish him, but also to thank him for his hard work for quite a while now. You know, and then you can also do stories like Jeff Cobb, you know, winning 9 in a row, even though you're just going to bounce him in the, you know, in the single elimination type round. So you can do a lot more with less risk. And I think that's what's kind of interesting to keep an eye on.
I don't want to be too conspiratorial, right? But that A block is so intriguing because, like you mentioned, there's just so many fresh competitors that are going into the block. I know traditionally they typically have everything booked out in advance for who's going to go through.
You got to wonder right now, right?
Right, because even though, like, for instance, I know in the past the wrestlers I've watched, I remember like Kenny Omega on BT, or Being the Elite. He was mentioning how, like, the wrestlers don't know what's going to happen night to night. They get told when they show up at the building, but the bookers, they know ahead of time.
It's already done.
Yeah.
Right.
That's everyone's understanding of how these tournaments work, is like they're booked, but the wrestlers don't know until they literally are pretty much about to go to the ring, or the day they show up.
But with all these guys that are coming into the A block and they're all so hungry and they're all looking to make a mark, who's to say that they don't pull an audible if somebody's getting over or making, you know, because again, like you mentioned, 2 people are going through. So you can easily have someone that like impresses you and be like, you know what, we were gonna go with Kiyomiya, but Tsuji's going through, because at the end of the day, neither of them were gonna win the tournament, and we're gonna give the shine to the guy that's really, you know, got doing something here and has captured the imagination of the public. And I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but like, it just feels like they could do something.
Does it sort of feel like that happened with like Titan, right? Like a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, but we would never know, right? We'll never know if that's how it happens. You know, and that's kind of the brilliance of this whole thing, is that we would literally not know that. We could hypothesize it forever, but no one's ever going to say it. You know, so I would hope that's how they're approaching a block like the A block, though, you know, I have some thoughts that I think they probably have to know what they're trying to do with Kiyomiya, just because you've got to wheel and deal with Noah and all that. But, you know, if you're looking at Shota Umino, Yota Tsuji, Ren Narita, and Gabe Kidd, like, and you say like, you're all going to be at 8 points after 8 points after 6 matches.
Right.
And then we're going to book the winner. Like, that wouldn't be that impossible to do either.
Yeah.
To literally play the hot hand at the end of this, because again, I'm sure they know who's going to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
So could they play with a lot of the smaller pieces to establish some guys? I would hope so.
What do you think of Jeremy?
Yeah, well, let's jump into the A block since we're already kind of talking about those guys. So I'll just list off the guys real quick. So overall in the A block, we have Sonata. It's 8th entry, 8th consecutive. He is the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. We got the crown jewel, Chase Owens, 3rd entry, 3rd consecutive. And then the rest of the guys are debut entries. We have Hikuleo, the son of Strong Style, Ren Narita, Shooter Shota Umino, Yota Tsuji, Gabriel Kidd, and Kaito Kiyomiya from Pro Wrestling Noah. So we got this youth kind of workhorse block here. A lot of interesting names, you know. A lot of the 3 Musketeers are in here. Narita, Umino, and Tsuji. We saw the announcement last week. We talked about it on the show last week. So those guys have been going back and forth on Twitter, talking about not wanting to be Musketeers and wanting to kind of, you know, outshine each other. You also have Gabe Kidd from the, you know, the LA Dojo, quote unquote, Musketeers, who wants to prove that he's better than, you know, Tsuji, Narita, and Umino. So you have a lot of guys here that have a lot to prove, kayfabe-wise and legitimately in their standing in New Japan. Their first G1's a huge stage for a lot of these guys. And, of course, Kiyomiya in there. People have been clamoring for him to have a rematch with Okada and just for him to be more involved in New Japan, so we're getting some of that action. You got to think, too, this is going to be one of the biggest stages that he's going to be involved in his career, so he's going to be wanting to try and make a name for himself as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is the block for people like us, right? For people like us who've been both paying attention as well as like really invested in the future of this company. The A block, you know, I wouldn't even call it argument, but I had some conversations with some people that have pretty loud voices in the wrestling world after the blocks were announced, and there were some people. I was surprised that anyone didn't just like absolutely adore the fact that this A block exists. And I get now, after some conversations, that people really want to see these guys against the established stars, right?
Right.
You want to see some mix up with guys like Naito, Okada, even like Taichi, Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr., you name it, right? Bunch of those established guys. I want personally to see these guys battle for their own generational supremacy, figure out who's got it, and then go after the generation above, right?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is the right play. So whoever comes out of this block, assuming it's not Sonata or Chase Owens, like those are the guys to keep an eye on in a sense of who's going to be the next guy to go after Okada and Naito. Tanahashi, I guess, still in that mix, right? So how do we, who's going to take that torch, right? And I think that there's a lot of candidates within this block.
Yeah. I mean, some of the other things that people were saying and kind of complaining about initially was we're not getting not only Okada not mixing it up with a lot of these guys that he has like a quasi generational feud going on with, but then you've got Kiyomiya in this block, and a lot of people expected Kiyomiya and Okada to inhabit the same block, so that was one of the big like hangups people had. And yeah, I get like what you just said, Chris, too, is like a lot of them wanted to see them mix it up with current day stars, which I think my knee-jerk reaction initially was the same. But then I started to think about it more and more. And it's like, well, what would that have looked like if you took these guys and put them in those other blocks, and probably instead of it being like, we're going with the youth movement and we're going to put these guys through to the finish or give them a lot of points, it would have been like past G1s where you have first-time entrants who most of them would be like 500, maybe under 500. They'd be getting beaten by established veterans. And yeah, maybe they like have a great showing and get a big win over a veteran somewhere here or there. It's not really a huge step forward to establish them as the next generation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think a key here that Chris mentioned is, wanting to see rivalries form within this generation and see stories told with these guys. Of course, I think we're eventually going to get to some of these guys against some of the bigger guys, but I think it's very important for them to establish their own stories and their own rivalries within their generation, because I think that's what's going to eventually kind of carry us into the future. Yeah, sure, seeing Tsuji versus Okada would be great, but we're going to get there. But I think for right now, it's very important to establish this generational rivalry, the peers, and kind of these guys fighting, and these are the stories that are going to carry us into next decade. The rivalries that start from this block.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about like the Attitude Era, right? And what were one of the things that people love to, brag about that was so incredible about that era was like you had all of these young studs coming up at the same time that were all trying to outdo each other each night to prove who really was the man in that company.
Right.
Well, that's kind of what they're doing in this block. And I mean, probably literally, there's never been a G1 block that had this many first-time young entrants go at it. And the closest thing you could probably point to is like the first G1, which that would.
Well, and even that by age wasn't even close.
No, because you had established veterans like Fujinami and Riki Choshu doing the job and Vader and that sort of thing. So even that's not totally comparable. But this is going to give these guys an opportunity to work with one another at a high work rate, very, very stiff, very, very strong, and really establish their feuds and everything like that. And then we can kind of see who's gonna what cream's gonna rise to the top out of this. Like, this is really like literally coal being forged into diamond under pressure. Like, that's what this is right here. And it's really awesome because coming out of this tournament, who knows how elevated any one of these guys hypothetically might wind up being. Like right now people see, say Ren Narita at one level, but if he has like a blowaway tournament and he does really well, maybe people start clamoring for him, and then we can build off that. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I think another thing too that people are kind of overlooking, all these guys are in the block with the current world champion. So all these guys are going to get a crack at Sanada. Tsuji's going to get a rematch with Sanada in a G1 situation. He could actually win that rematch and set up a third match and get another title shot later in the fall. So these guys are going to be, in a big spot here against Sanada. I know a lot of people are not maybe the biggest fan of Sanada as champion or would rather somebody else, but he's the world champion right now, and these guys are going to get the opportunity to be in there with the world champion, show what they're made of. And if they outperform Sanada in these matchups in this G1, I think that's going to be a very big deal, and that can help them going forward.
Well, I mean, I've always had that old adage, and it's something I've said about, it's kind of funny because in hindsight, we never imagined that Sanada would be in this position at this current time. We never even thought he'd be world champion, much less, world champion in a G1 block. But for years now on this show, we've been saying this is a very talented wrestler who can rise to the level of competition that are above him, but doesn't seem to have the ability to elevate those beneath him to his level. Well, now he's the champion, and he's in there with 6 guys that, are all youngsters and looking to establish themselves. And this is going to be the true test of his title run, essentially. Like, because, yeah, it might continue on for this, and who knows, maybe it goes to the Dome. I'm not sure. But, like, if he shits the bed with, Hikuleo, Ren Narita, Shota Umino, Yota Tsuji, Gabe Kidd, Kiyomiya, that's going to be a detriment to him, and that's going to prove a lot of the naysayers right. So this is the true measure of him as champion, essentially.
Yeah. We had a question for Def Triangle 720. In terms of A block, who could be the breakout star of the pack, and who will beat Sanada to be his next challenger?
I have a strange feeling a couple of guys are going to beat Sanada to become his next challenger. And I couldn't exactly tell you who, but I don't foresee this being a situation where Sanada like buzzes through all these guys. I think he's going to take a couple of losses. And I think that for a couple of reasons. I think we need to establish some of these younger guys. And Sanada, I don't think he's going to end up being one of these most protected champion types, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of saw it with Hiromu in Best of the Super Juniors, where he ate some losses, and there's some things that hopefully will come up as this year goes along with Hiromu. But I kind of put Sanada in that same space where they're going to build up some competitors for him for the fall, and I think he might have a couple of defenses between the G1 and Wrestle Kingdom, and I'm not so convinced that Sanada carries the belt down the aisle at the Tokyo Dome. So, I think it's really important to keep an eye out. I mean, I think Kiyomiya is an obvious choice to put over a young guy in the industry, if nothing else. I think New Japan's super focused on the growth and health of the professional wrestling industry as a whole in Japan. And I do think that's like legit. I don't think that's just them talking. All right, it feels like it's legitimate. So I think that's a chance for them to do something. And honestly, it might turn into being the hot hand, right? So yeah, but I would keep an eye on that Kiyomiya match, and I would keep an eye on the Tsuji rematch. Those are the two that I've got my eyes on, but I could definitely be surprised by someone like even Hikuleo or Narita popping up if he gets hot, right? Or obviously Shota Umino, they've got a lot of hope for him in the future.
Yeah, I wouldn't be so. I don't think that it's going to be some major indictment on Sonata for him to take losses, because we've seen lots of champions in the G1 lose numerous times. You know, Kenny Omega, AJ Styles, Okada, Tanahashi. So that's fine. It's going to matter more as far as the actual level of the performances that he's putting in and the reactions he's getting from the crowds and the numbers they draw. As far as who could be the breakout guy, I mean, the only person I would count out is Chase Owens, who's essentially there as like the veteran hand to work with these younger guys. But literally every single other competitor has that ability to be the breakout guy from the block. I mean, if I was just going with what I've seen, and I'm just making an educated guess, I would say Suji, but there's no guarantee that Shota Umino doesn't just run away with this thing. You just don't know what's going to happen here, and there's a lot of, like I mentioned earlier, unknowability, which is the exciting thing about all of this, because Gabe Kidd might just like tear up the pack. We don't know. Like, Hikuleo might become a dominating monster. Like, there's a lot of intrigue here. As far as who I think is going to beat Sonata, I think that, I don't know. I like the Chris's picks. I like Yota Tsuji and Kiyomiya as being possible candidates to beat him. I'm wondering if his next title defense even comes out of this block, because I sort of think Sonata is still going through regardless, and will suffer a loss in the semifinals or quarterfinals or whatever, the playoff. He's going to lose in the playoff and potentially set up his title challenger that way. I don't know if any of these guys are ready to do, say, King of Pro Wrestling with him.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same kind of wavelength for you guys. I think that any of these guys, have the ability to be a breakout star. Kind of like you, Josh, I'm leaning more towards Yota Tsuji, as if I had to pick one, just based off of his performance at Dominion and just what a star performance he had there. And he has a lot of charisma, a lot of cool moves. So I think he's definitely a guy that could really break out and kind of really make a name for himself here. But all these guys are great. We've seen them all have, great matches and great moments. And so I think any of them could end up being the breakouts. And then, similar for the challengers, I think, Tsuji's in there again. I think that's definitely a sign that I think he's going to win the rematch. I think he's going to learn from his mistakes from the Dominion match, be a little bit more confident, and beat Sonata there to set up a rematch in the fall. I think it does make a lot of sense to have Kiyomiya win. That could be a cool title defense, King of Pro Wrestling or Power Struggle in the fall as well. So those would probably make the most sense. I wouldn't be surprised if Umino was able to get a win over him. They're definitely kind of pushing him as kind of the ace of this generation. So you could set up his kind of first world title defense with a win over Sonata here as well. So most anticipated match you guys looking forward to?
I think now's a good time to talk about 20-minute time limit too.
Oh yeah,
because that's a new piece to the puzzle, right? So if we're looking at how to get out of some of these matches, right, we might see more draws. Almost 10% of G1 matches, G1 block matches historically have gone over 20 minutes, so 9.3 some odd percent. So I think it's worth noting that that's a possibility. So if we're looking at, say, Kiyomiya versus Sonata, and maybe you don't want to give Kiyomiya the win over Sonata, and you want to give someone else those title shots, right? But you could go to a 20-minute draw. And then, you know what I'm saying? So, like, then the people who actually beat Sonata have more of a claim at those title shots, and you can kind of get out of the Kiyomiya thing, but also not have him lose.
Yeah.
So those are the types of things that I think it's important to be aware of, at least.
Well, like you mentioned, I mean, they've only had 9.3% of all tournament matches have ever gone over 20 minutes, right?
All block matches.
Block matches, right?
Right. Most of the finals have gone over 30.
Right. And so with that, like, a lot of people probably imagined like, oh man, 20 minutes, that's going to really change things. And I think it's more of a perception more so than a fact, because I think what this is going to result in is overall shorter match lengths, because people will be working them so that they're a little bit faster paced, more frantic. And then I think we'll see an overall shortening of match time, just generally speaking across the board, because of the quote unquote 20 minutes. Even though historically it's not going to actually affect too many match lengths. And then
Sure.
you mentioned, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I of course have the historical averages by year. And I mean, 2021 average match length got up to 17 minutes and 17 seconds, which is outrageous. Last year was back down to 15. 2019, 2020, 2022, it's all in the 15 range. 2020 almost got up to 16. But go way back to 2012, 2013, when things were really heating up. 1146, 1124, 1039 in 2004, which was the previous largest G1 field, 2014. And then into the 12s, and then it starts to rise. So you've got, mid 12s, and then 14s, 15s, and then all the way up to kind of the nadir in 2021, when everyone was like, what are we doing here? And everything's going long, and everything's almost a time limit at 30, right?
Yeah.
So I would place my bet on an average match length closer to 11 to 12 minutes. And I think they're going to use it as a story point, but I don't think they're going to lean on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you know what? And I thought I was being a little bit outrageous, because I was going to say my prediction was going to be like a 12 to 13 minute time frame, and I thought I was being a little bit like, but yeah, you're calling 11 minutes.
Well, I think to get to that 12, 13 minute, you need a match to go almost 20 almost every night, and I just don't think they can do that every night. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how the averages work.
Right.
Because otherwise you're going to have a bunch of 10s, you're going to have some 15s, right? And unless you're playing with the time limit on every main event or like every semi-main, I don't know,
Well, I hadn't looked at the math. I just thought I don't know. I just was picking a number arbitrarily, and I was like, man, that sounds short compared to like the last few years. But yeah, that definitely makes sense.
I mean, it's super junior timing, really, because that's about what those matches typically land at.
The other thing, though, too, is I do think we'll start seeing more time limit draws, count outs, and things like that, just because there's more matches, there's more blocks, and they're going to need some of those tiebreakers. So I'm expecting to see that utilized a little bit more here.
Yeah, we've seen historically great short matches. There's been a ton of G1 matches that fall in that 10 to 15 minute range, are just absolute bangers, guys that just go out there and they're swinging from the bell. So I'm not worried about there being short matches. I think that's gonna, like we said, help kind of increase the intensity and the pace of the matches and end up with a lot more bangers.
I agree.
So from the A block, what matchup are you guys looking out for?
You know what? This might not be the biggest match of the entire thing, but if there's just one that appeals to my sensibilities as a fan the most, it's going to be Gabe Kidd versus Ren Narita.
Oh, interesting.
That match is going to fucking rule.
Yeah,
and I'm calling it right now. We're already going to be talking about a strong style fight of the year contender in that one. It's going to give everything in C-Run a run for its money. That's going to be a very violent match.
Yeah, that's going to be
awesome. I'm looking at like Sonata versus Kiyomiya just because I'm so intrigued by that booking, and it's in Corkin, and it's a main event. Yep. That's on night 7. That, that's, you gotta there. So here's the thing. There's the main events of this whole tournament. They're kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
You don't have a lot. Like, there's a lot of matches that you're like, that should be the main event. And it's like the semi-main, or it's like Burst on the card for that matter. There's not a lot of like classic G1 main events. And part of that's the card construction. Part of that's the 2 blocks on a night. There's a lot of factors that go into that. But when it really comes down to it, like Sonata versus Kiyomiya in Corkin Hall, that's one to watch.
Well, there's also a lot of cards at the end that we don't know the match layouts or like the structure of the cards.
Yeah, the last four. Every block has a card at the end of the tournament that isn't laid out yet. So, for the A block, that card is Sonata versus Chase Owens, Ren Narita versus Kaito Kiyomiya, Shota Umino versus Hikuleo, and Tsuji versus Gabe Kidd. What? Like none of those are just like the obvious, like this is the final match of the block. Like there's gonna be one of these matches on that night in Osaka, which is gonna be a great crowd. One of those matches is gonna be for second place, and it's gonna be the most meaningful match of the night. Like that's how that's gonna have to work. Owens? Yeah,
that's weird.
That might be the one.
Is Chase Owens just gonna go on a legendary run in this block and we don't know about it yet?
Or maybe Chase.
Everyone's talking about him. All the guys are all the Three Musketeers are putting over Chase.
Or maybe Chase knocks out Sonata, spoils Sonata, and Sonata doesn't get through the quarterfinals.
Well, we've seen him do that before. Yeah, I mean, Chase is sort of an unsung hero here because he is going to be the guy that works with a lot of these younger talents, and he's sort of a bit of a litmus test, but he's beaten Tanahashi in the past in the G1, so he's had some big wins in the past, and then he'll be fine to eat pinfalls as well. So yeah, I see him as essentially just a spoiler, but I mean, like I said, there's so much unknowability. Who knows? What if he does go on a run? What if he's like the senior statesman that just like amounts a bunch of like sneaky wins and he ends up being...
He's just got to finish second.
Yeah. You just got to get second.
That's not impossible.
Yeah, he has a good shot.
This is weird. So weird.
Yeah. I mean, for every block, I'll go through the last night once we kind of talk through it. Like none of them, there's one or two matches that are like, yeah, that's going to be important. The rest of them, no clue.
Jeremy, what are you looking forward to the most in this block?
I think for me, I'm looking forward to Ren Narita and Shota Umino. They've done a really great job of kind of building up their rivalry on the undercards of the last couple tours, and these two guys they're clearly really trying to fight to see who's going to be the top of this class of this generation. And I like the stuff I've been seeing just with them being on the same team and how they've been fighting each other when they're teaming together. So I think that match is going to be really heated. I mean, we've seen some great stuff from them when they were both young lions facing off. So I think they're going to go out here and have a really great match.
I think Tsuji's going to
the first night for A Block's really good. Owens Kidd, Umino Narita, Tsuji Kiyomiya. That'll be cool. And then Sonata Hikuleo. So that's on Saturday. That's going to be a really fun run for the A Block.
Tsuji sort of has this like jesterish dick sort of like bully persona. I feel like he's going to clown Kiyomiya in that match and just like show up and be like, "Oh, you're the ace." This you guys ace? All right.
Hold the spear.
And he just smiles with his big fake teeth.
Yeah. That'd be great.
He's got quite the grin. I'll do this too throughout the show because it'll be funny by the end of it if you follow the bit. So the A Block, historically, between them all as they enter the tournament, they have wrestled in a total of 76 G1 Climax matches throughout the whole block. So 61 of those are Sonatas, 15 are Chase Owens. Remember that number as we carry through here, because once we get to D Block, there's going to be a big old giggle.
So one last thing. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, so before we move on from A Block, who are you guys going for 1 and 2 going into
You're reading my mind. That's what I wanted to touch on. So I'm still thinking. Ultimately, my 1 and 2, I think Sonata goes through, and I think Kiyomiya goes through.
I think Kiyomiya goes through, and I think Tsuji goes through.
Ooh. Wow. Fuck you, Sonata.
I think Sonata's going to eat just the right losses that he ends up in some sort of tie but he ends up out of the running.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm kind of with Josh here. I'm also going Sonata and Kiyomiya. I'm not sure who's going to end up being 1 and 2, but I think they're going to be the two guys that end up going through.
Nice.
All right, let's move on to the B block. So we have Kazuchika Okada with his 12th entry, 12 consecutive. He won the G1 in 2012, 2014, 2021, and last year, and he is 1/3 of the never openweight 6-man tag team champions. We have Yoshihashi with his 7th entry, 4th consecutive. He is 1/2 of the IWGP heavyweight tag team champions. Then we have Taichi with his 5th entry, 5th consecutive. He is the provisional KOPW 2023 title holder. Kenta with his 5th entry and 5th consecutive. Great Okan, 3rd entry, 3rd consecutive. The Commonwealth Kingpin Will Ospreay with his 4th entry, 2nd consecutive, and he is the IWGP US Heavyweight Champion. We have the return from injury of Tanga Loa, his 2nd entry, 1st in 2 years. And then the 8th man in this block is the headbanger, El Phantasmo, with his 2nd entry, 2nd consecutive.
Very, very interesting block. We've got a few favorites. I feel like we've got a couple guys that are like sleeper picks, and then some guys that are going to be very good performers, but probably don't have much of a chance of winning this block, honestly.
Yeah, there's obviously a couple of guys that you think are probably going to go 1 and 2 in Okada and Ospreay. But then you've also got some intrigue here. So I think guys like El Phantasmo and Great Okan are definitely guys to keep your eyes on. They could be guys that either get a big spot and play spoiler, or they have a good run like David Finlay had in the tournament a couple of years ago, even though that was kind of at the beginning of the tournament. So those are the top 4, I think. Everyone else there really hits the, not that they're not threats, right? Kenta, Taichi, Yoshihashi, and Tanga Loa. But I don't see them being players towards the end of the block. Maybe Taichi, wouldn't necessarily surprise me. Yoshihashi's really, locked into the tag world. Tanga Loa is just coming back from injury. We haven't seen him in over a year. And Kenta just lost the strong title, and he's kind of the shenanigans guy now. So but that top 4 is intriguing. I kind of hope one of the lesser, I hope someone like Great Okan goes through maybe instead of Ospreay, just because I think that would be interesting. Or El Phantasmo's got Ospreay on the final night. That could be a big night for him too. You got to figure they're going to figure out his lane going forward during this tournament. So that's something to watch out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it seem too obvious that Okada and Ospreay are the guys going through here?
Yeah.
Because I look at this block, I've been looking at it. I've been trying to, play out like the quarterfinal scenarios, semifinal, final scenarios with these guys and who's going to go through. And like I keep coming back to it, just makes the most sense for Okada and Ospreay to go through. But unfortunately, that's super obvious, which makes me think, oh, maybe one of these guys is not going through. And obviously, to get the Okada-Kiyomiya match, we need Okada to go through. So like you're saying, Chris, maybe Ospreay's that guy where we think he's going to go through as well. But yeah, maybe that ELP upset knocks him out or something like that. Because, he is the U.S. champion. And he's still kind of in this feud with Kenny Omega, which the third match, if it happens at All In, that would be after the G1. So maybe that's kind of the story he's stuck in. And so maybe we're all just kind of thinking for our New Japan lens, we're like, all right, Ospreay's the top guy. He needs to get into the quarterfinals, but maybe, yeah, he gets knocked out, and then his focus is on Kenny Omega for All In, where we get somebody else through, and maybe it's ELP, or maybe ELP is just the spoiler, and we get somebody like Great Okan through, or maybe even Taichi through would be a cool guy to get through.
Yeah, and then maybe that's the conduit to get ELP into a different title picture, right? Into the US title picture if it doesn't end up going over to Kenny. Just so ELP has something big to do as he establishes himself outside of Bullet Club.
I think it really depends on how they want to play the playoff round, because if we're looking at it and they're thinking, we might be able to treat it somewhat similar to like a New Japan Cup, then yeah, there's room for a guy like a Taichi or a Great Okan to go through, and we can go from there. But if it's sort of more like this is the G1, and regardless of the fact that we have a final 8, it still needs to be our top superstars. This is going to tell us what the pecking order is going forward, and there's not that many room for surprises. Then yeah, I would fully expect Okada and Ospreay to go through. And I know that might seem too obvious, but sometimes the most obvious thing is the right thing, especially if it's going to depend on them booking large crowds and doing big business and, just getting people interested in talking about the G1 moving forward. Do we know what those cards, obviously we don't know who's going to be involved, but do we know what the playoff nights look like? How many playoff matches are on the cards each night leading up to the finals?
Yeah. So August 10th is all 4 quarterfinal matches.
Okay.
And then the 12th in Ryogoku is the semifinals, and then the 13th is the final, also in Ryogoku. So there's 3 knockout nights, really.
So yeah, if you're doing the first night and you have all 4, they don't all need to be main event caliber. You only really need 1 or 2 to be in that top spot. And that does open up the door a little bit for it to be a little more like New Japan Cup oriented, where you could get like an El Phantasmo or somebody else that has never gone through to, a final scenario with the G1 before.
Yeah, one thing we probably should have looked at too at the A block is who has the most main events. So who has the most main events in the A block? Who has the most main events in the B block? I'm pretty sure it's probably Okada for B block, right?
Okada has the most main events in the tournament, so it is Okada. Okada has the strongest booked tournament, averaging 7.17 of 8 matches on each of the first 6 cards. So he has 3 main events, 2 semi-mains, and 1 match that is 5th on the card. Sonata ties Okada. So Sonata in the A block ties Okada with the same exact kind of booking structure: 3 mains, 2 semi-mains, and 1 match that's 5th on the card. So those are your top 2 booked.
So either one of those 2 guys is very likely to be the Iron Man of the tournament in terms of match length, but I'm thinking Okada's going through regardless. That's just what everyone feels like. So, and we're not so sure about Sonata. So it seems like Okada's probably going to have the most ring time of anybody in this tournament, most likely.
Yeah, and another thing that people might want to hear it, but I think there's a good chance that Okada can win the G1 again. Gato loves the three-peats, and he has 2021, 2022. He can pull the three-peat here and have him win this year as well to be a 3-time back-to-back winner, and then consecutively being a 5-time winner. I think that's very plausible, especially him coming off the loss from Bryan Danielson. You really want to build him back up and heat him back up. You could have him, kind of steamroll, get into the quarters, and get all the way to the finals, and potentially just win the thing again. So I think Okada is, for me, one of my strong favorites of definitely being one of the guys going through.
I disagree. And there's only one scenario where I see that playing out personally. I feel like it's a foregone conclusion. We're getting Bryan Danielson and Okada in the Tokyo Dome again, which,
Do you?
Yeah, you don't?
What leads you to believe that?
My heart?
Yeah.
I do feel like that. I feel like they did that match with that submission so that Okada could get the return.
Oh, I think there will be another match. I think Kazuchika Okada's got plenty that he could do in Tokyo Dome. So I'm not so convinced that it's definitely Danielson in the Tokyo Dome. I think it could be Kiyomiya. I think it could be another one of these young ace, upcomers. It could be Danielson. He could do a lot that isn't attached to the title this year. He's got a lot going on. So I think it's unlikely that Okada wins the tournament. But I also don't necessarily see a clear path for Danielson at the Tokyo Dome. So, but I hear you. I think there will be a rematch.
Well,
at some point.
He tapped him out with the broken freaking arm. That's his path. That's all he's got to do.
No, I understand, but the Kiyomiya path is pretty clear too.
Right.
And I think this is one of those years where we see Okada in a grudge match, not in a title match.
Sure.
But it also then wouldn't surprise me for Okada to win the G1 and be the only three in a row G1 winner, because, you know, he needs another feather in his cap. So nothing surprises me when it comes to Okada winning.
I definitely think, could you do something else with him in the Dome? Sure. Is there anything else as big as him and Bryan Danielson again in the Dome? And the fact that, like, they want to bring, you know, Danielson over. There's no other stage that makes as much sense as that one. I think they're doing that match. I feel very strongly that that's where it's happening. And that would basically mean, if that is the case, he's not winning the G1 unless, because a lot of things have changed this year. They've done a lot of things where they're foregoing traditions and stuff like that. What if he won the G1 and then challenged for the title in October instead of January? We're not doing the briefcase thing, and we're not going to have the winner of the G1 challenge, you know, in January, but they move it up and he beats Sonata for the title at King of Pro Wrestling. Then that could open things up, you know, to a much greater extent, which, you know, that might be a little fantasy booking-ish, but I also think it's plausible.
Yeah, well, we've seen Okada kind of, you know, talk about not wanting to do the briefcase thing. We saw him bring back the V4 title. Like, he's done a lot of stuff to try and, like, kind of move away from the whole traditional briefcase Wrestle Kingdom challenge. So I think that is plausible if he wins, for him to be like, you know, why do I have to wait until January? Like, I want to, let's challenge in September, October. And then, he could win the belt back. And then, of course, then Bryan could be like, well, I beat you at Forbidden Door, so you're holding my title. And then that could easily set up, you know, the big rematch, you know, dream match at the Tokyo Dome main event, Okada versus Bryan Danielson.
So that's all plausible. I won't debate that. I'm just not so sure that Danielson's the Dome opponent. That's all.
No,
you know, yeah. So, and Okada winning the G1 3 years in a row, again, of course, he needs to be the only person to do anything. Anything he does, he's the only person that does it. So may as well be 3 G1s in a row too.
If you were going to do that and you were like gung-ho, we need to have this record set, then now's the time to do it, because you're not going to have someone else go 3 in a row.
It'll be a while. It would be at least 3 years.
Yeah.
See, math.
Yeah, and I think, if you want to do it for Okada, you're right there. You might as well just do it now instead of waiting later when he's older and having him win 3 more times in a row when he's older.
Yeah. I don't think this is the year that he needs to be in the title picture for the Dome, though. You know, we do every other year, Okada's in the title picture. If not, you know, maybe it's not quite that obvious, but he's got so many potential challengers that I would like to see just have a big Dome match with him, Danielson included. You know, don't get me wrong, I want to see that rematch, but I'm just not so convinced that that's the only path for him. So yeah, Okada's interesting. You're right, he will probably be the Iron Man. All of his matches are probably going to go long. 20 minutes will change things a touch for him for sure. He's not going to break any of his old records of just putting in the minutes, but you know, Okada's the guy, right? I'll run these numbers as we get closer to the G1, but he's the guy. He's probably got the most 20-minute plus matches, him or Naito. Like, those are the guys that carry that weight for the last 5, 6, 7 tournaments at least. So we'll see how they adjust.
So here's some funny shit. I know it's these are precursors to the G1, but Antonio Inoki, between 1986 and 88, he won the IWGP League 3 times in a row. But before that, between 1978 and 1981, he won the MSG League 4 times in a row.
Of course he did.
So that man won the he won the round robin tournament. What do you call this thing? Grand Prix. He won the
summer,
the Grand Prix tournament 10 times in his career.
Okada's halfway there.
Yeah.
So what are you guys looking forward to for your matchup here from the B block?
Ooh, I'm gonna go first because mine is Great Okan versus Will Ospreay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, so they every other inter-unit besides I guess maybe a little bit of Bullet Club overlap, they kept all the units separate mostly. And this is the first so Osprey and Great Okan, it's on the 25th of July. It's in Corkin Hall, so it's night 7, and it's the first match on the card.
wow.
So like that's interesting, right? And there's a ton of speculation about what Will Ospreay is going to do with the rest of his wrestling career and where he's going to spend his time and all that. And United Empire is a strong. It's a very important unit to New Japan now. I think that that's clear, and I don't think that that's just because of Ospreay. So there's a part of me that's watching that match wondering if it's the potential passing of the torch. I don't think my bet is Will doesn't know what he's doing once his contract's up with New Japan. He's been very honest about when his contract comes up. He's been very honest that he wants to continue to wrestle with New Japan. And I don't think that's just, lip service. I think that's legit. But, things change, money talks, et cetera, right? So I think if we're watching Will Ospreay throughout this tournament, I think that's something to keep an eye on. Are they going forward with him really quickly? Is that the one match that he's going to lose if he's going to take the block? Things like that. But first on the card in a hot Corkin during the G1 cheering crowd. I cannot wait to tap into that match at 4:30 in the morning because that's going to be hype.
There have been so many reports over the years that management is very high on Great Okan and that they see him as a potential major star / quasi ace level, performer in this company. But the booking has not really, connected to those types of reports. And it's starting to feel like if that is the case, you're going to need to pull the trigger on him sooner rather than later. And now with this influx of new, young, fresh talent, it feels like if they don't do something now, we run the risk of him getting passed up by all these other guys coming into the company. So yeah, I don't think it's implausible that he beats Will Ospreay. And I think it's very interesting and telling, like you mentioned, Chris, that this is one of the very few major, interfactional matches in all of the G1. So that's one definitely to keep your eyes on. And I am wondering if they don't put him through. I know that a lot of people have their eyes on El Phantasmo, but it just feels like, they need to make up their minds when it comes to the Great Okan. For me, the match that I think is that I'm most excited about, and yeah, you can call me basic for it, but whatever, Okada versus Ospreay. Like, it's one of the biggest main events of the entire tournament. It's it was the finals last year. It was match of the year last year, and I can't wait to see him do it again.
Yeah, same for me. Okada Ospreay. I mean, that match is absolutely incredible every time it happens. So we're gonna have full cheering crowds in the middle of G1. Of course, that's gonna be great. Just to throw another one out there, I think Ospreay and Taichi will be another great hard hitting match to look out for. I do agree with you, Chris, that the Okan Ospreay match will be intriguing too. And Okan's a guy that we like. We're big fans of Okan, but like Josh is saying, it's you hear one thing and then they do another thing. We hear that we're all in on Okan. He's a big star. We have plans for him, and then the booking happens and nothing falls through. And we've seen Okan get big wins at tournaments in the past. New Japan Cup, he had that upset win over Tetsuya Naito. So they've done some upset wins for him previously. So even if he does beat Ospreay, I'm not so sold that that's going to be the sign that, all right, we're actually going to push Okan. He's going to be the new de facto leader for United Empire. I think it might just be them throwing him a bone like they've done in the past, and which will be great for him to have that win. But I'm still kind of hesitant to jump in and be like, all right, they're finally going to do something with this guy. I hope they do because he's awesome, but he's going to end up pretty shortly in a situation where, like Josh was saying, like Tsuji, Yumura, Narita, Umino, these guys are going to come in, they're going to pass him, and he's going to be kind of left in the dust. So I hope that doesn't happen.
He is the champion of the British.
Spoiler alert, he is.
Damn, did he lose?
He is no longer the champion of the British.
No.
He lost to Michael Oku?
Yes.
That seems weird.
It doesn't.
Well, no, it's weird because he beat Ricky Knight Jr.? He never beat him for the title, right?
They had a rematch.
Oh, I don't know. I don't follow that shit.
Dang. He lost, huh?
Yeah.
Wild. I've been watching a lot of wrestling. I just did not catch my Rev Pro.
Well, that frees him up though. He's not that.
Yeah,
champ.
that's true. He can do whatever he wants. He can go after that U.S. title after he beats Will. Last night of this block is Taichi versus Great Okan, El Phantasmo versus Will Ospreay, Okada versus Tangaloa, and Yoshihashi versus Kenta. So another kind of night, right?
Yeah, because
El Phantasmo and Will, I feel like that's the second place match, and I feel like first place is just gonna be like locked up.
Yeah, because Okada versus Tangaloa. I don't see Tangaloa getting an upset over Okada to like spoil him.
I don't think Tangaloa is spoiling him. Yeah, no. If Tamatonga maybe, but I don't think Tangaloa is there.
Didn't Yoshihashi and El Phantasmo rule last year?
I'm pretty sure it did. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like something that would rule.
Yeah, I thought they had a great match last year. I'm also interested in Taichi Yoshihashi. That's probably going to be very good.
I think all the El Phantasmo matches are going to be interesting to me because I'm so intrigued by where his character's going.
Yeah.
And night 3, he's got Okada in the main event. So I think that might show us something. I think that'll be really interesting.
What if ELP and Will is the first place match, and then Okada Tangaloa was the second place match?
It's plausible. Anything's possible with this layout.
There's so much math at play that we're so far off from that point. There could be any number of different scenarios.
I feel like there's a couple of things, again, I'm watching Will Ospreay's tournament pretty closely because it's got all sorts of other things. So I think that last match is really interesting. Like, I don't imagine they're booking Will a send-off G1, right? But it wouldn't surprise me if he got spoiled by El Phantasmo here somehow, because then that sets up Phantasmo and Ospreay for the U.S. title, maybe at the event that you keep calling King of Pro Wrestling, which is actually called Destruction Ryogoku this year.
Whatever.
It's the October Ryogoku show. It's still the same
thing.
It's all the same, but it's part of the Destruction tour this year. So I think that could be interesting, and then that would free up Ospreay to do God knows what at the Dome too. So there's so many just like paths to the Tokyo Dome this year that it's really hard. There's no real clear, like, this is what we need from the G1 winner. Anything can happen, especially because the belt's still on Sonata.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing too with Will is, like, if he were to win, that would be great, but they've only ever had one Gaijin winner in the entire tournament history. That was, Will Ospreay, or I'm sorry, Kenny Omega. And,
and he bailed.
Yeah, he left, and Jay White was here and came close and never won this tournament. And we all kind of figured he would eventually, and he didn't. And so, yeah, it's like, can Will Ospreay, achieve what only Kenny Omega has ever really achieved from an outsider?
That's an interesting wrinkle to their story too, isn't it?
Yeah. Going all in.
I'm not with him being the U.S. champion. I just don't see it personally.
Right. That's the challenge. That's the challenge. I think I have U.S. champion in the G1 data here. Wait, let me click a button.
It's probably not pretty good.
It's not good because
it was Omega in 2017. He got 14 points, so obviously he had a great tournament that year. But that was really right after the title was established. Then it was Juice Robinson in 18. He got 6 points. Moxley in 19 got 10. Moxley in 2020 didn't participate, and I don't have 21 or 22. So
it's okay.
But yeah, it's not great, right? They don't The US champ doesn't usually have a great run through the G1.
Yeah.
I think with Okada being, the ace of the company and him having 2 consecutive wins and the fact that Kiyomiya is probably, in his future, I see him going through regardless. And so it's sort of like the second slot, who's that going to? And it's really going to be like, is that Will, or like you guys kind of postulated, like, is it El Phantasmo or Great Okan to kind of sneak through? Personally, I would prefer that I don't know. I'd be interested in those other guys and I'd be fine with it, but I'm sort of thinking they just go with Osprey and Okada personally.
Yeah, those would be the 2 picks I want to see. And for right now, that's who I'm going with because it just seems too obvious where it's kind of like galaxy brain booking to try and like force one of those guys out. So I'm just going to go with those 2.
Yeah. I have a tough time writing one of those guys out. If I had to, it'd probably be for El Phantasmo just because he's got Will on the last night.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not ruling that out, but I think if I had, if I have to make a pick, it's Osprey. So Osprey and Okada going through. That's the most chalk block you can have.
But that Phantasmo Osprey match on the final night is very intriguing. And the fact, I don't think Phantasmo's ever beat Osprey in singles match in New Japan. Or if he did, it was like in Super Juniors.
Super J Cup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That Super J Cup they did on the West Coast because, that definitely happened.
But he's lost him quite a few times so far. And especially since they've gone up to heavyweight, he hasn't beat him. So
right. That's definitely the truth.
Yeah. Well, moving on to C block now. We have...
Oh, wait, I got to do my bit.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
B block total coming into the G1, 272 matches. G1 matches historically. So we got 76 for the A, 272 for the B. Stay tuned for C and D.
So C block, we have the Rebel David Finlay, the current never openweight champion. It's his second entry, second consecutive. We have the Stone Pitbull Tomohiro Ishii, 11th entry, 11 consecutive. He is 1/3 of the never openweight 6-man tag team champions. We have Evil with his 8th entry, 8th consecutive. Tama Tonga with his 6th entry, his 3rd consecutive. The Dragon Shingo Takagi with his 5th entry, 5th consecutive. We have Aaron Hanare with his 2nd entry, 2nd consecutive. The Mad King Eddie Kingston making his debut entry. And Mad Mikey Nichols from TMDK making his debut entry.
It's the banger block.
Yeah, the hard hitters.
This is the hard hitters, tough guys block. And I don't think that's an unfair assessment of what to expect from these guys. I think they're going to beat the hell out of each other in general. And this block as a whole, it's also, as with any of these, it's very intriguing. Unclear, but I think there's some hot hands here, right? I think David Finlay I love him in his current role, his current incarnation, leading this new Bullet Club, which is full of just badasses. And we'll talk a little bit more about some more of them as we go through here. But I think Finlay's got to shine, right? Like Finlay's got to shine if they're going to make this particular Bullet Club work.
Yeah.
So like he's a front runner to me. And then, the rest of this block's kind of wide open, honestly. Like, in a sense of booking strength, Tama Tonga's the third highest booking strength. He's tied with Naito for third highest. So only one main event, but 3 semi-mains. He's got more semi-mains than anyone in the tournament. And nothing. He's got one match that's 6th, one main event, 3 semi-mains, and then one match that's, down card 2nd. So Tama Tonga is a guy that we haven't seen him a lot lately. They kind of wrote him off when he got demolished by Finlay, but he's back now. And I think a lot of people forgot about the fact that he was kind of a pushed entity for a while. So I think it's important to look at Tama Tonga as a real threat here.
I think it was a real mistake not putting either Jeff Cobb or Taichi in this block. More specifically, I would have preferred Taichi to be in this block. But putting that aside, this is probably my second most anticipated block of the tournament after A block, just because the level of violence is going to be so high in this block. I mean, Ishii, perhaps possibly the greatest all-time, G1 participant there ever has been, and he's in there with, Shingo and Aaron Hinare and Eddie Kingston, and all those guys are going to kick each other's asses. And then you've got, obviously Evil, and with Evil, it's hard to say what we're going to get out of him. He could fuck off and he could be like one of the low men in the tournament and that sort of thing, be the night off guy. But we know he has the propensity to work this style if need be. And even Mikey Nichols, there's people that have been down on Mikey Nichols in the past, and for good reason. But if there was a style that I think will click most well with him in this tournament, it's going to be this bruiser style of wrestling. And I think he's going to fit in better here than he would have anywhere else in the tournament. And then, going with David Finlay, he's shown nothing but the fact that he's extremely physical in this new character. And sort of like what you mentioned, Chris, he has all of these guys underneath him, and they're all showing a high level of physicality. And the only way for me to kind of believe in David Finlay as being the plausible leader of that group, he's going to have to up his game even more to be a believable leader, because all of the guys that are underneath him they're fucking people up, and he's got to do that to an even higher degree. So there is a little bit of pressure on him, not just to have great matches, but also to like really, kind of be a badass.
Yeah, I think he definitely has to up the intensity, which he's done a great job since the heel turn. But yeah, with the way that, Gabe Kidd and Coughlin and Connors and Drilla Maloney, like those War Dogs, like those guys are, killing it and really bringing that intensity. So yeah, Finlay's got to step his game up here in this tournament and really kind of be the leader of that group and show off his attitude here. But yeah, this is going to be a very fun block. And I agree with you, Josh, with Mad Mikey Nichols. He's, kind of a meat and potatoes kind of style wrestler where I feel like he does a lot of like brawling, a lot of striking. So I feel like, yeah, this is going to be a good place for him. I'm looking forward to see what Shingo Takagi is going to do. He's been in it now 5 years in a row, and each year he goes out there and he has a lot of great matches. He's a guy I would like to see go through, but again, this is so wide open. I definitely think Finlay should go through, but then from there's so many options. Tama Tonga, like you mentioned, Chris, he had that upset win over Okada last year and was kind of really pushed in the first quarter of this year. Was never openweight champion. And with him having so many, semi-mains and main events, I feel like he's a guy you can send him and Finlay through as, you're kind of two foreigners from this block to get into the quarterfinals. Or you could send a guy through like Shingo. But then there's also Eddie Kingston, who's an AEW guy, and we know that AEW guys usually get pretty favorable booking, and Eddie is now the strong openweight champion, defeating Kenta at Independence Day Night 2. So he's a New Japan champion, so there's a possibility for him to go through on that also.
Yeah. One other person that would have fit beautifully in this block if they had extended the offer, Tom Lawler would have, fit in like a glove. And it's kind of a shame. He's one of the few omissions where I'm really like, dang, I can't believe they couldn't find a space for Tom Lawler, especially since he was in last year's tournament. But yeah, man. I mean, it really is open. If I'm being realistic, as far as believable guys that can get through, I think Eddie Kingston, Shingo Takagi probably have the highest percentage of being the second, because I think we all believe David Finlay's probably going through. I think those two guys are the most likely second entrant, but to a lesser degree, I could even still see like Evil or Tama Tonga going through. So that kind of gives you four plausible guys to go through in this block aside from David Finlay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, except that I think the story is that let's go back a little bit. Eddie Kingston is the reason Jay White's not allowed to wrestle for New Japan in storyline, right?
Right.
Kinda.
I mean, he was the one who knocked him out completely.
Yeah.
Right? Jay White's last New Japan match was with Eddie Kingston, right?
Yeah.
Bullet Club leader, Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston beats Jay White. What happened after that at that show?
Finley came out and attacked Jay.
David Finlay came out, right? The last night of this block, and in my opinion, the most likely main event is Eddie Kingston versus David Finlay.
Mm.
And if we're establishing David Finlay as the new Bullet Club leader, he's going to beat the hell out of Eddie Kingston. And he's going to talk about how Jay White couldn't. Jay White didn't. That's why Jay White's not here anymore.
Right.
David Finlay just did. Right? Like, that's going to be... I can hear the promo now. And if they miss on this, I'm going to be a little bummed because I'm putting some eggs in this basket. But it's going to be the main event. It's going to be Eddie's only main event in the tournament. I mean, my bet is that that's the main event. I guess Shingo versus Evil could also be the main event at the C Block final. But I think it's going to be Eddie Kingston versus David Finlay. And I think David Finlay's going to win. And I think that's going to be the talking point. And I think it's going to be a great moment for Eddie. It's going to be cool, whatever it may be. But I think that the real push here is for David Finlay. So I don't see Eddie going through in that scenario.
Yeah. I mean, that's very similar to what they did with Okada and Lance Archer last year, giving Archer very strong booking. And then at the end, he put over Okada and didn't go through. So I don't doubt that whatsoever. I do think that the fact, again, speaking similarly to what we talked about in the B block, you have David Finlay and Evil, two of the top end senior members of Bullet Club, but there is this greater issue at hand because you've got the what does David Finlay call it? The Savage Club or
War Dogs?
War Dogs, baby.
But
those are my dogs for real.
He's also referred to it as the Savage Club, I think, as well.
He calls themselves. He calls the group Savages, and he says, "Bring gold or bring bodies." So those are all words that are getting thrown around. And is the War Dogs the tag team, or is that the whole?
Well, I've heard the commentators have been saying War Dogs for everybody.
Okay. Yeah, for both the heavyweight and the junior tag team, they're both called War Dogs. So I'm guessing it's all of them.
These are my dogs for real.
But then you have the House of Torture, which was another offshoot group from Bullet Club a few years ago. And obviously Evil's the leader of that. And so there's going to be this issue between these two gentlemen. And maybe this is the final payoff to people that have been begging for a Bullet Club Civil War for the last 6 years. But here it is. David Finlay and Evil, they're in the same block. So
main event of July 23rd at Big Hat in Nagano, night 6, David Finlay versus Evil. That's actually my match of the block, I guess. Either that or Kingston Finlay, but if we're looking kind of mid-block, that's the one that I'm watching.
I'm a little worried about Eddie Kingston in this block because I love Eddie Kingston, one of my favorite wrestlers, but he is not in good shape right now. And this is going to do one of two things. It's either going to break him or he is going to be so physically fit at the end of this thing, one way or the other, because he gives 110% every night. And he's either going to kill himself, to go out there and have great performances every night, or either that, or he's going to be forged in the fire and come out looking like $1 million. Cause that happens for a lot of guys. It's some of their best physical condition comes at the tail end of the G1 because they're working, so many matches each night that they look incredible by the end of it all.
Yeah, luckily for him too, there's a short time of matches, so he probably won't have to go, super long most block nights.
That's true. That might maintain guys. There's other guys in the same boat, right? We're going to talk about a few of them probably as we get to D block, but I do think managing the minutes, right? I think that's a real thing. So, and I think that'll be helpful both for some of the new guys coming up who might not have the cardio or stamina built up yet, and for some of the guys like like Kingston or some of the guys that are at the tail end of their run. We could see there's some clever hiding of weaknesses that I think will come from the 20-minute time limit, the 8 block matches a night. Keeping those averages down, I think is going to make a huge difference for how these guys survive. And there's a lot of people talking about Eddie Kingston and his general fitness and whether he can make it through this tournament. And everyone knows he wants to do it, and he's so passionate about it. And I think that's going to carry him pretty freaking far as he goes into some of these venues that he's probably put up on a pedestal, through his fandom as well as his studies of pro wrestling. So I'm really excited to see Eddie through it. I don't know that he's going to be your 4 stars every night kind of guy, the old Ishii role, I suppose you could call that, but I think he's going to bring so much to the table, and he's going to make things really interesting that it's going to build up to that final block match against David Finlay, and I think that's going to be really neat.
Yeah, and I think so. Turns out for that main event, you have never openweight champ or strong openweight champ, and
sure,
all like the Bull Club stuff you mentioned. I think that definitely that kind of screams main event scenario to me.
Yeah, and since they put the title on Eddie recently, we all kind of know that in situations like this, they like to give some favorable booking to AEW contracted talent. But now that he's also a reigning champion in New Japan, that gives it even a little bit more cushion and buffer for them to give him some favorable booking. And the fact that he probably is in the main event on that final evening against David Finlay, that kind of screams he's going to have a strong tournament. He's probably going to have a couple losses, and I'm assuming somebody else in this tournament aside from David Finlay will beat him and be the next, contender for the strong openweight championship, which, there's that as well.
Yeah. As far as matches to look out for me, the match that I'm really looking forward to is Shingo and Eddie Kingston. That's just going to be, Haas heavy hitting matchup, and I think Eddie Kingston's really going to shine that match.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to touch on. We hadn't made too much mention of him, but Aaron Henare, I know that not many people think he's going to have a shot at winning this block, but he's a guy that has had an incredible year. Some of the best matches he had this year were against Shingo. Those were some of the best matches in New Japan this year. And I think he's going to take even more of a step to work this style and to have a breakout tournament. So I think he's somebody really to seriously look out for in this block in terms of just, match output each night. But in terms of the match I'm most excited for in the block, and I know it's very basic because we've seen it a million times, but it's kind of hard to count out against it because it's going to fucking rule. Tomohiro Ishii, Shingo Takagi. Let's do it again. I love this matchup. It's one of my favorites in all of wrestling, and they're giving it to me. So already this G1's probably better than last year, just because of that.
And let's not forget, Ishii's 47. So we're borrowing some time for Ishii in the G1, and everyone looks forward to Ishii's G1s, and I think it'll be another good one. But let's enjoy every moment of it as we can, because who knows, right? Who knows? As you get closer to 50, it's tough to justify, the big summer tournament.
Yeah.
So I'm also excited. I'm excited for most Ishii and Shingo matches separately, but then you put them together, and it's a lovely battle. C block, total number of matches entering as you come into the tournament, 236. So A, 76, B, 272, C, 236.
Wow.
Keep that in mind as we head towards the D block.
Yep. So D block, the final block here, the experience block.
Do we say who we thought we're going through?
Oh yeah, shoot.
Let's see. I'm gonna go Finlay and Tama Tonga.
I've got Finlay and Shingo. I think that Shingo versus Evil match on the final night is pretty telling. I think that means, in my opinion, I think Evil and Shingo are going to be pretty high point getters, each of them.
Yeah, I've got Finlay going through for sure. And then what I have written down right now is Shingo / Evil. So I think that's the match that's for the block. Just based on how I've got my semis panning out, I'm gonna say Shingo because I assume we'll talk through what our single elimination. I'm sure you're all writing this down and you're ready to talk what the single eliminations look like later in the show.
I had never considered it until you just said it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so that because I'm gonna go Shingo because that lines him up against Tsuji in the quarterfinals, and I think that's interesting.
Oh,
Gotcha.
And then I've got Finley and Ospreay in the other match that's full right now, and I think that's a banger.
Yeah. Let me get a pen and paper.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the D block. So we have the ace Hiroshi Tanahashi with his 22nd entry, 22nd consecutive. He won the G1 in 2007, 2015, and in 2018, and he's 1/3 of the never openweight 6-man tag team champions. We have Tetsuya Naito with his 14th entry, 14th consecutive. He won the G1 in 2013 and 2017. We have Hiroki Goto with his 16th entry, 16th consecutive tournament. He won the G1 in 2008, and he is 1/2 of the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. We have Zack Sabre Jr. with his 7th entry, 7th consecutive. He is the NJPW World TV Champion. We have Toru Yano with his 18th entry, 17th consecutive. Jeff Cobb with his 5th entry, 5th consecutive. And then 2 debut entries, Hysterical Shane Hayes from TMDK and Alex Coughlin from the Bullet Club War Dogs. And he is 1/2 of the Strong Openweight Tag Team Champions.
And he's my dog for real.
He's my dog for real.
That song is on Spotify if you're looking for it.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. I'll send you a link. It's a good hype. It's a good hype song.
Yeah, I'm digging that song.
Yeah, it's like almost one of those songs that's so bad that it's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's also like just legitimately great. So I don't know. Tough to say. So I'm gonna finish the bit, right? Because you just went through everyone's G1 experience here. So I'll go from the top here. Again, A block, 76 total matches, total G1 matches as they come into this tournament. B block 272, C block 236, D block 628 G1 Climax matches amongst them, which is wild and a ton of experience. You've got 4 of the top 7 all-time G1 like number of matches in there. You've got Tanahashi with the most ever at 166 coming into this tournament. You've got Yano with the 3rd most. He's at 136 coming into the tournament. Goto's the 5th most at 126, and Naito is the 7th most at 116. So you've got 4 wrestlers with more than 100 G1 matches already under their belt. And then you've got a guy like Zack Sabre Jr. who's got over 50. So you've got the opposite of the A block. You have all the experience you could ever want. These guys haven't even talked about what they're doing for the G1 because they're so comfortable doing the G1. They're just going to roll in there and do it. So super stoked. I like the dichotomy of the A and the D blocks and the fact that they're on different nights. And I think that gives us a lot of different things to pay attention to. A lot of rematches in the D block, a lot of first-time matches in the A block. I like every block sort of having a theme. So I think that's a really interesting way to do it. And it feels less like a mishmash.
Yeah.
But 628 matches is a hell of a lot of G1 matches. I haven't run the numbers of whether or not that's like the most coming into a block, but it probably is.
Yeah, ton of experience here in this block. I think we're going to have a lot of really solid matchups coming from this block, also with just the ton of experience. I think this is a great opportunity for guys like Alex Coughlin and Shane Hayes, especially Coughlin, with this whole Bullet Club push and mixing it up there. I think this is the kind of matches people want to see with, the guys like Narita and Umino, those guys. They want to see them face off against these guys. Well, Coughlin's getting that chance here. And he's one of the guys, one of the quote-unquote musketeers from the LA Dojo side of things. And so big opportunity for him to mix it up with guys like Naito and Tanahashi. And there's a heated rivalry with him and Goto, so that's probably going to be a heated match when those guys face off there. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what Coughlin's going to do here and kind of his output here. I think the shortened match time is going to help guys like Tanahashi and Naito, who are, their best days are behind them. More Tanahashi sort of than Naito. Tanahashi's been looking really rough this year. So I do think a shortened match length is going to help him get through this G1. And then for Naito and his rusty knees, I think this will be a good change in the pace for him to get down further in the stretch of the tournament.
I'm not that excited about D Block. I mean, there's a lot of matchups that, while they'll probably be good, we've just seen a lot of these matches. And like Chris mentioned, a lot of these participants are longtime participants. So there's not a lot of new territory to kind of tread here. It's very familiar. We've seen Tanahashi, Naito, Goto, and Yano and Sabre Jr., quite a bit against one another. And then even now, I think Alex Coughlin is an extremely interesting individual to be in this block, and he's probably the most intriguing thing to me here. But he's the case example of what I mentioned earlier. What if we'd taken those guys in the A block and kind of spread them around the tournament? They'd probably end up in a similar position to where Alex Coughlin is, to where like he's going to work with a lot of these veterans and look to prove himself and probably get some big establishing wins. But I personally don't see him going above 500. Maybe, and if he does, it would only be just slightly above that. He doesn't have a chance to win the block or anything like that, and that's kind of a shame. It almost would have maybe been better to have him in that A block to some extent. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Colin would have been the guy good to go in that C block also.
Yeah.
Oh, he would have ruled in the C block. Yeah. With all that being said, though, I don't see that many individuals in this block that have the propensity to actually win it. I think Naito, as well as Sabre and Jeff Cobb, in my opinion, have to be your three favorites. Of course, Tanahashi has a chance. He is Tanahashi, and you can't completely count him out. But I'm thinking, with the story kind of being that he's on the decline, and with them having two big heavy hitters in that block, like Jeff Cobb and like Zack Sabre Jr., I think this is the year where he doesn't get through. And I think we're probably looking at like a Naito and Zack Sabre Jr., block.
So Naito and Zack Sabre Jr. is the main event of the...
We're doing this again?
Second to last block night.
Oh, that's okay.
I think that knocks one of them out.
You think so?
It very well could. And I mean, that would just be... we've done this so many times.
Naito and Zach have been in the same G1 block. This is like the fourth time in the last 5 years. So it's a thing.
That, I'm not excited about that. Like, I know the matches are great, and I know they've got a lot of history, even going back to like...
Zach knocked him out of the tournament in 20? What year did Naito get hurt?
I think it was 2020 where he had to forfeit all.
Yeah. And that was Zach. And they kind of keep going back to it.
And they just keep going back and forth and doing this to each other, not just in this tournament, but in the New Japan Cup as well. But I don't know, man.
But I mean, I don't know if that makes a difference to your picks. That I think that's a knockout match.
Yeah,
it's not the main event. It's the D block main event. So it's the semi-main in Hiroshima.
You know what? I'm going to hold out hope and say on a night like that, Zach beats Naito and puts him in a gotta win in a do or die situation.
Gotta beat Tanahashi on the last night.
That's what I think is going to happen there, because if he still has Tanahashi the final night, I think you can have Zach beat him, and then he has to do the come from behind thing that they always do with Naito.
Totally.
So who has Tanahashi, Zach or Naito?
Tanahashi versus Naito is the final block match for both of them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So,
So the final night is Goto, Zack Sabre Jr., Jeff Cobb versus Shane Haste, Tanahashi versus Naito, and Yano versus Coughlin.
As much as things change in New Japan, some things just never change. And Naito's not going to be fully dominant in a block like this. He's going to have to surge from behind, and he's going to be basically almost knocked out by the time he gets to Tanahashi on the final night.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree. I also don't really see. I mean, Cobb could go through. Goto, I guess, could have another run, but he's a tag guy now. So, I mean, Tanahashi, that'd be a bold move to put him back to give him another singles match. Does the man do we need it? Do we deserve it? I don't know.
What are the matches on the final block night for these guys?
I just said them.
You said all of them?
Yeah, it's Goto, Zack Sabre Jr., Cobb versus Shane Haste, Tanahashi versus Naito, and Yano versus Coughlin. That's the D block final night. Yeah.
Okay. And Cobb has who?
Haste.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that screams to me. This is just me personally. I think that screams Naito and Zack going through.
Yeah, I think Naito and Zack are going through. I know that semifinal the night before kind of makes it think like Zack, one of them might not go through, but
it might lock up first place.
Right.
It could.
And then Naito's got to keep fighting because he didn't win. He's trying to get that second slot. That's a fine and easy story to tell.
Cobb versus Shane Haste tells me one of two things. Either like it's going to be one of those round robin situations and he's going to need to pick up the win to qualify to go through, but it more likely screams to me like either spoiler or not in play down the stretch.
Fighting for pride.
Yeah. Goto going through for another, quarterfinals.
That could happen.
That's not outrageous either though.
No.
So and that would probably knock Zack out. So I think those are the four that are in play. I mean, every block seems to have kind of four guys that are really in play.
The G and G1 does stand for Goto.
I've heard that. Someone said that once. I think if I'm going pretty chalk on the D block here too, I think I picked Zack to win and Naito to come in second, which sets up the quarters that I want, but has no way of getting me to the finals that I want. So I'm just going to wing it from here.
You know what's crazy? I just kind of winged, and I know we're not there yet. We'll get there, but I winged my A through D people, and then I looked at New Japan World to figure out how this is all supposed to play out, and then I looked at it, and you know what? I think I'm right. I think I've got the perfect mix of matches with the right outcomes, and I got the exact semifinals and finals that I think is going to happen. So it works out.
Yeah,
congratulations.
I'm pretty happy with what I have laid out here too for my quarters. But for me, I have Naito being first and Zack being second for what I have laid out.
Now I got Naito going second. He's got to come from behind. He's got to be the lowest to go through.
So I guess now we should walk through our single eliminations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go one by one, I guess. That's probably the easiest way to go through it.
Yeah.
So Josh, what are your quarters?
Okay, well, I have, and I just kind of wasn't.
So A1 and C2.
Right. I have no rhyme or reason for why I picked anyone to be number one versus number two, other than I just BS'd it.
Sure. That's totally fair. You knew the two that you wanted to go through, and you're building out your single eliminations.
So I wound up with Sonata versus Shingo.
Well, that's fun.
And then after that, I wound up with Ospreay versus Naito. And on that side of things, I think that Shingo would beat Sonata and Naito would beat Ospreay, giving us the big Naito versus Shingo all LIJ match. Okay. And then on the other side of things, I wound up with Finlay versus Okada and Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kiyomiya. And with that gives us the big Okada versus Kiyomiya match that everyone's been waiting for. And I didn't plan it out that way until I started looking at it. I'm like, oh, it lines up. Here we go. So, and I think that those are two really big matches that like make total sense for, a finals sort of situation. And then ultimately I would have Naito go through and Kiyomiya avenge his loss to Okada. And we wind up with Kiyomiya versus Naito in the finals, with Naito beating Kiyomiya to win the G1 this year.
Chris, you want to go next?
Yeah.
Are you
Josh,
rethinking things?
No, ours are very similar. We have very similar paths. Yeah, except so A1 C2, I've got Tsuji and Shingo. And then B1 D2, so that quadrant, I've got Ospreay and Naito, same way you did. I've got Naito going through, and then facing Tsuji.
And the Ospreay Naito thing, it works out too because of the history from last year.
Totally, 100%, and it knocks Ospreay out.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably knocks Ospreay out with a guy who doesn't need a U.S. title match.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the strategy once you get that deep in the tournament. And then, I've got Finlay, Okada, Zack Sabre Jr., Kiyomiya.
Wow, we have the same ones?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I had Ospreay and Okada flopped. Like I had Okada winning the block, and then it was Okada Naito.
But you don't wind up with Kiyomiya.
But I'd need that Kiyomiya Okada match to happen. And I guess they could just be teasing it. But I think that's a really important match to happen. So then I've got Okada over Finlay. I've got Zack and Kiyomiya because I think there's something going on with TMDK and Noah. So I think that'll tie in somehow, right? So I think that's an important match to happen in these quarterfinals. But I do have Kiyomiya going through, which then maybe could invite Zack to Noah to avenge the loss, or whatever it may be,
right?
But then this is where we go, because I've got Tsuji and Naito, and I think Naito wins that. I do think that's more interesting than Shingo Naito, though I would love the Shingo Naito match too. So I've got Naito going through from that quadrant, and then I've got, everyone thinks Kiyomiya is going to get a win. I've got Okada going in. And then I think you've got a G1 final of Naito versus Okada. And to be honest, I don't know who wins that. My heart says Naito because I think Okada's got a bunch of other shit to do. But God, nothing would surprise me.
Three-peat.
Yeah. And then that would mean Okada would have beaten who? He in the finals. He beat
David Finlay.
No. The final matches of the G1 over his last three.
Oh,
he beat Ibushi. Who did he beat last year? Who was in the final? Ospreay. So Ibushi, Ospreay, Naito wouldn't be a terrible, But also, I don't know. I think I would have to pick Naito. And then Naito goes to the Dome, and maybe that's Naito Sonata.
Yeah,
because you could put anyone in there with Naito, anyone that's kind of in the picture already, and I think people would be happy.
So for me, I got my A1 is Kiyomiya, with my C2 being Tama Tonga. And then my B1 is Okada. My D2 would be Zack Sabre Jr. We know they love doing Okada versus Sabre in tournaments. Then my C1 is Finlay versus my B2 Ospreay. We know they have history from last year's G1. And then my D1 is Naito, and my A2 is Sonata. And we know
you booked the quarterfinals like a banger card.
Yeah. And then I have Kiyomiya beating Tama Tonga and Okada beating Sabre, which would give us that Kiyomiya Okada match. And then I got Ospreay beating Finlay and Naito beating Sonata, which would give us Ospreay Naito in the semifinals. Run that back from last year. So have Naito beat Ospreay this time. Kiyomiya beats Okada. So just like Josh, I have Kiyomiya and Naito for the finals, with Naito winning.
See, I like yours better than mine. I think I like both of yours better than mine.
I think ultimately though, when you kind of mentioned the fact that like it would be very, and you didn't say it in these words, but I was thinking of this, it would be very ghetto and very New Japan to have Okada just beat Kiyomiya again.
Be funny as hell too.
Yeah, dude, the internet will be crying.
It makes
Oh
me feel.
my
It makes
God.
me feel like me and Jeremy are wrong and you're right.
I can think of a couple of people that are I would run directly to their Twitters to see their reactions. But
You should
somehow
tell
you
us who
gotta
that-
get
you should-
somehow
need to
you
tell
gotta
us who
get
those
the,
people are off air.
I will not. They're not hard to find. Just people who are very vocally fans of Kiyomiya and or Noah. Yeah, I just think that that's the play. Everyone will just think Kiyomiya is gonna bounce him. This is the moment. This ain't it. The moment comes after he shows up and he's got a contract. He gets another head pad for his participation.
Yeah, I don't know. I know they haven't done this in a really long time, but I think of those classic G1s where they bring in a foreign ace, have him go all the way to the end, and then lose in the finals. And there is a little bit of precedent there, although Geto himself hasn't done that. The closest that we probably ever got to that was like Marufuji going deep in the G1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if that's the comparable, then Kiyomiya will have a win over Sonata. And in which case, shit. In which case, Okada's winning the damn tournament. Kiyomiya is going to walk in as the champ.
I have thought about that scenario.
Because Kiyomiya would be the guy at Ryogoku, probably. He could win the title, which is something they haven't done in a long time, but we're doing stuff this year. And he could face Okada at the Dome.
And then lose again?
For the title.
Yep.
And maybe, I don't know. Yes, and lose again.
Yep. We gave you
Yeah,
a
we're
belt.
really, y'all thought Muto buried this man? This is New Japan Pro Wrestling, okay?
Oh, man.
No, I mean, it's so complicated.
Yeah.
And that's why this G1 is fun, right? We could go back and listen to like our last 3 G1 previews, right? Which we always have a great time, but
we're always wrong.
There were a couple of those tournaments we were wrong, but we weren't that wrong.
Yeah,
right?
I listened to last year's. We were pretty close last year.
Okay, sweet. Nailed it. Feeling good about that then. I trust you. I'm going to believe you. I'm not going to go listen to it. But like, there was so many more clear lines in the past 4 or 5 G1s, right? Even back to 2019. This year, especially with the quarterfinals, the 4 blocks, I love the layout. I love that it's quarterfinals too, and it's not just semis.
Mm-hmm.
That adds such a big wrinkle. There's a lot to enjoy about this tournament, and it's. I don't want to say it's wide open because we all have really similar guys going through into the knockout round, but as you progress through the knockout round, it gets really complicated.
Yeah.
Especially when you add in Kiyomiya and what do you think Okada's doing in the Dome? And does Naito have one more run in him? Can Naito finally get the roll call in the Dome? Where does Ospreay fit into all this? He's the US champ, but he's also a main eventer. He could definitely lose that title somewhere along the lines. I don't know, maybe a couple weeks later in a big ass stadium. Like there's so many factors with New Japan really like coming into its own again. That this is a really, like all predictions out the window. I think this is just going to be a really fun tournament to just enjoy.
Here's what I'm expecting. Okay. I think we get that Naito versus Ospreay match. Ospreay looks like he has everything locked up. And to add insult to injury, he puts Naito on his shoulders. He's walking around the ring. Suddenly, the ref is distracted, and Kenny Omega comes from underneath the ring and spikes this man in the head, allowing Naito to win with the Destino and knocking
with the screwdriver.
You think Kenny's going to Japan?
Yeah, he's going to show up in Japan. He didn't come to Japan to defend the title at all, but he's going to show up to screw Ospreay.
That that would align with what I would expect.
I think we got some questions about all this, though. We need to run through real quick.
Yeah, so Heavenly Halberd in the Discord says, who has the most to prove / needs to have a good performance the most coming into this G1?
Shota Umino.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to go with Dave Finlay.
Sure, okay. That's fair, too.
I think I'm also going to go with Shota Umino.
Yep, that's a great pick.
I mean, he's the guy that they're pushing clearly as the, next Tanahashi. So, I mean, he has to...
Or Moxley.
Yeah, or Naito.
Or Naito.
Yeah, one of those three, or all of them.
Yeah.
There's a picture of him. He's wearing a hat that says Shooter, a shirt that says Roughneck. He's got a jacket that says Death Riders. Like, this man is having an identity crisis, and I think we need to intervene. Like,
you know what it is? It's like
pick a nickname. Neither of them are really all that good, but just pick one.
He was a really big fan of like those wrestlers like The Undertaker, but he failed to realize that Undertaker acquired all those nicknames over like 20 years in the business. He didn't get them all at the same time.
He's like, I need nicknames. And they're like, you're the Roughneck. He's like, Shooter. He's like, Moxley calls me Shooter. No, I like Shota Umino. I think he's great. I think he's got the highest upside of that group. He could be a star if he puts it all together. He hasn't put it all together yet. We haven't seen a sustained run of Shota Umino, both knocking out some wins, getting some strong booking, as well as like just really showing up for these events. So I'm excited for it, and I hope he comes out as the leader of this group. But I think Tsuji's miles ahead of him right now. So this is going to be a really important G1 for Shota to do some catch up.
But I do think that, I know we're joking about like the nicknames and his character, but I do think the lack of one direction, I think, is hurting him. Because at one point he's coming out, he's smiley, happy-go-lucky baby face, he's slapping hands, kissing babies, taking pictures of all the kids and stuff, giving away armbands. And then next minute he's teaming with Moxley and their Blackpool Combat Club, and then he's feuding with Okada, and he's this young angsty like. I got to prove I'm better than Okada, kind of cocky, arrogant young guy. And like, he's kind of all over the place with what his like character and demeanor is. And I think that lack of direction, I think, is hurting him.
New Japan just announced Hiromu as the first entrant for the U.S. All-Star Junior Festival.
Nice.
Yeah.
He'll be there?
Yeah, he'll be there.
Who knew?
I only say David Finlay just because, yes, he's already proven himself in the past, but with the high caliber level of like performers that are underneath him in the Bullet Club, I could just see 6 months down the road who's the real leader of this group. Conversations springing up unless he really has like a truly, outstanding performance.
Yeah. Next set of questions here from the Discord. Daddy MJS PR. What is the least predictable block, and who will get wins over Sonata?
Oh, that's a tough question because, I mean, in terms of like, I think the A block is really hard to predict, but I don't think the guys coming out of it are hard to predict necessarily. Mm-hmm. In terms of like who has which block I think has the most viability for people to go through, it might be C block.
C, yeah.
Yeah, definitely C.
Yeah, there's like 6 guys that I could see going into the semis from C, or the quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as guys that could get a win over Sonata, and I guess, I don't know, we could always include other people outside the block, provided he goes into the quarterfinals. But in the block, my money would be on, I think Kiyomiya is a good pick. Well, you've already said it. I think Shota Umino and Kiyomiya are your 2 leading contenders, but I think Tsuji's also another strong candidate.
Of those 3, I think like one of them lands in a draw.
Mm.
Like I will trash talk people that in their G1 pick'ems pick draws like across the board, because I think it's weak and a cop out, and there just aren't that many draws in these tournaments. But if there's going to be one this year, and I think with the 20-minute time limit, you got to figure they're going to pop a draw here or there, maybe early in the tournament, just to establish the 20-minute thing as like a threat. So I don't think Sonata's going to eat 3 out of 7 losses.
No,
I think he's going to eat 2 maybe
2.
and 2 in a draw. And like I said, the draw kind of takes that person out of the equation for like the Ryogoku in October and maybe a power struggle, defense, or maybe something in America if they're doing another big show in America. So I think there's plenty of options there. I think the dark horse is like a guy like Red Narita, like just popping a win and like getting a big spot later in the fall to see if he catches. A lot of this stuff is just to see what catches on with the fan base.
Well, they got Hikuleo in there, and they could just do the
main event night 1 of the G1 Climax 33, Hikuleo versus Sonata.
I mean,
that's your night 1 main event, my friend. If you want to establish Hikuleo as a threat, you have him go over.
Upset alert.
And go
How
over
many
strong.
times did Fale do that to even guys like Okada and Tanahashi? So that's very plausible.
It's not out of the question that Hikuleo wins that match and then like loses the next 6.
Yeah.
Like legit. Not honestly, I'd kind of love it.
So moving on to a question from Dragon Master Adam on Twitter. Choose one match outcome that would be the worst upset and the best upset, like Tsuji beating Sonata, thumbs up. Tangaloa beating Okada, thumbs down.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, I just said Hikuleo defeats Sonata on night 1. You pick which, if that's best or worst. And honestly, Tangaloa beating Okada. that doesn't sound right, but I don't know. I guess if you got to balance the numbers one way or another, I guess that's one way to do it.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's tough. I mean, there's so many really good.
I think the worst upset to me would be like Chase Owens beating Sonata.
Oh, so Chase like gets a title shot.
Well, he doesn't even have to get a title shot.
I mean, like it doesn't always happen that way, right?
Yeah.
We didn't really explain any of this for like first time watchers, right? Usually if someone beats a champion in a tournament, because it's not a championship match, then the next step is that they get a championship match down the line. And that goes for most of the titles. So it's usually used to set up, another title match, especially at this top level. So, yeah, I'm excited to see Chase in the A block, though. I actually think he's going to be really a good piece to that puzzle.
I'm a fan of Chase Owens, but I don't think Chase Owens should be beating the IWGP champion.
Sure, the booking, yeah.
That's my main reason for saying that. Now, if I were to pick something that I think would be incredible and would be the best upset that you could do in the entire tournament, Kazuchika Okada gets beaten by Taichi.
That sounds great.
That would be so fucking cool.
Chase Owens is tied for the lowest booking in the tournament. So he doesn't have anything past 4th on the card.
Yeah, he should not beat Sonata.
just putting it out there. The other guy that's low while I'm looking at this screen in my infinite number of windows that I have open, Great Khan, really low on the booking totem pole. He's the 5th lowest booked. He doesn't have anything past 5th on the card. So he has no 6th match, no semi-mains, no main events. That's kind of surprising. But again, we talked about that a lot earlier, but that kind of quantifies that he hasn't been booked strong, but I think he does have a couple of highlighted matches. So he's an interesting guy to keep an eye on.
Well, that could also be one of those things where sometimes they put somebody in that kind of position and they sneak all their wins through and you don't see it coming.
Yeah.
Right.
For a cool upset, I think Chris mentioned it earlier, I think like Ren Narita beating Sonata would be like a really cool upset to just kind of catapult Narita into that main event picture. And then, I agree if you got like with either Tangaloa beating like Okada or Ospreay, or Chase, beating Sonata would probably be not the great of upsets.
I'm looking at like the last nights for like a meaningful terrible upset. But there really isn't anything on those that I think is like even plausible.
There's the one I said, Chase and Sonata.
I suppose that's true.
Next question here from our friends over at the Super J Cast. It said, which matches are you circling in the schedule for whatever reason, be it snowflakes, history, shit talking, future significance, storylines, potential angles, or just general vibes?
I feel like it's a great question, but I feel like we covered all that in the review or preview.
How about this? I'll change Joel's question because I am allowed to do that. What's your vibes match of the tournament? Like, it's not necessarily going to be a stars match. It's not necessarily going to be important to the finals, but like just the vibe of the match you think is going to be like either interesting or cool or unique. Just because Joel mentioned a vibes match, and vibes is kind of my word of the week.
You guys answer because I'm not quite sure what vibes is.
What's the vibe? Like the vibe is like the crowd's into it. It may not be meaningful, but like for whatever reason, people are just have picked up on like this particular match as being like fun or important.
Okay. Do we need to pick one for each block or just one?
Nah, just pick one.
I think that Aaron Hinari and Tomohiro Ishii is going to rule.
That's a vibes match.
I think Alex Coughlin and Goto. It's going to be a vibes match.
I think Okada versus Yoshihashi and Cork and Hall is going to be a vibes match.
That's a good one.
That's the vibes match of all vibes matches, I think, because Yoshihashi and Cork in the semi-main that night, I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That Cork night 7 is going to be a banger night. That's going to be a fun one. There's a lot of cool stuff on that night.
I think Tsuji and Narita too is another one that's like they're such polar opposites at this point with the way they're being presented. That's going to be very interesting to see how they interact with one another.
Nice.
Yeah, and Josh mentioned this one earlier, but Gabe Kidd and Narita, like I don't know if that's going to play into the finals. I mean, based on what we booked, it's not. But like that's going to be a vibe of like, yeah, these guys just out here killing each other,
going for it. Yeah, yeah.
And Gabe Kidd just match. Like saying every curse word under the sun. Oh man. Let's see. Next question here from Jeff O'Farrell on Twitter. It says, odds on this being Kevin Kelly's final G1.
Chris told me it is, so that's
what?
It.
I will not have that. You know I will not have that.
Chris Sampson reports.
No. No.
According to sportofprowrestling.com.
No. I'm going to keep interrupting you. Absolutely not. I will not have it. If I had my druthers about me, I would make Jeremy edit this.
We're just joking, guys.
I want to be very clear. I know nothing. What I do know is that Kevin takes a lot of pride in the work he does. And I think he's going to put himself in a position to continue to be prideful with the work that he does. So, and that's, he puts a lot of effort into the prep, and some of that is, by, keeping an open line relationship with me and asking, for things. And, Kevin is as good as it gets by my money. And I'm incredibly biased, to be very clear. Kevin has, been really cool and really great to me and given me a lot of, cool opportunities to meet people and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. All sorts of stuff. Like can't speak higher of, my experience with Kevin. I think when it comes down to it, he's going to do what's best for him, what's best for his family. I think there's a lot of great broadcasters that would love the opportunity to call New Japan Pro Wrestling at a high level, the way Kevin has for the last, 7 or 8 years. Right. So I would love for that to continue to be Kevin Kelly. Like, don't get me wrong. But I don't know, when you get booked by AEW, I think it gets a little harder to clear the time. Mm-hmm. But if he's ever going to come over for a full tour and bail on, a month's worth of AEW, it's going to be for the G1. Right. So and that, I don't think that's implausible that Kevin does his summers with New Japan, So
Yeah.
Like I said, I know nothing. I hope that line stays open, that relationship stays open. But we have to admit there's a chance we're going to hear some different voices calling New Japan in the English language. And I don't think that's a terrible thing, but I do think Kevin has about as deep a knowledge about the promotion as you can get from an English broadcaster, him and Chris for that matter. So, my hope is that he continues in some capacity, whether that's, all the stuff he's been doing in every tournament or just the G1 and Wrestle Kingdom. I think that would be cool too, right? He's a special voice, and he's had a special role in the community of New Japan for a very long time. And, I hope that continues in whatever capacity he sees, is best for him and his family and his, his checkbook.
Yep. Chris said it the best. I mean, I couldn't say any better than that.
Yeah, did all of that. Yeah, definitely hope that Kevin sticks around. But I will say, I thought Ian Riccaboni did a great job for the New Japan Strong
100%
Independence Day show. So he's definitely a guy that could kind of step into that spot if Kevin decides that he's going to be AEW full time. But ultimately, I would love Kevin to stick around, and maybe he slides into the Don Callis old role of showing up just for the big shows. That'd be cool too.
I've got Ian's email address too, so the stats are going to keep showing up.
The other thing too is, Chris Charlton has grown immensely as a broadcaster. I mean, there was a period where
tremendous.
We thought the rumor was that he was going to get fired, and he wasn't showing up on shows for that one period of time, and everyone was clamoring for his return. And now they're entrusting him to do shows on his own sometimes, or if not on his own, with some of the kind of guiding other veterans like Ian Riccaboni and others, through the broadcast. So he's up to the task at this point.
Yeah. Next question's here from Rambone Slam Pig. First, he says, which block are you most intrigued by, and which is least interesting to you?
Most A, least D.
See, I'm most intrigued by C, because there's so many guys that could go through.
Mm-hmm.
And because a lot of those matches are going to rip.
Mm-hmm.
Least, I don't know. That's tough. I mean, I think B is just so clear to me as to who could possibly go through. And I hope they throw a curveball, but Okada and Ospreay, how do you get out of that? So to me, that feels less intriguing, because I in my opinion, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, A is the most intriguing to me, just based on all the young guys. Then, B would be the least intriguing to me, too, just because, it seems so obvious that Okada, Ospreay are going to be the two. But then again, we might be wrong.
We're totally going to be wrong, so it's fine.
He also asks, he says, my belief is that Naito will win the G1 and then go on to challenge Sonata at the Tokyo Dome. I think a lot of people are feeling that this is the plan. Is there another outcome you would rather see?
So our preference.
Okay, I mean, there is a scenario I would rather see, but it's not going to happen. But if we're just talking about things I want to see, then there's this man named Tomohiro Ishii, and he'd be winning the fucking G1.
Oh man,
that's what I would like to see. Ishii winning the G1. Period.
I would like to see Ospreay get his G1 win.
Yeah.
I just think this is a weird year for that to happen.
I would love to see Shingo win a G1. I know he's kind of been in KOPW zone since losing the world title, but I mean, he had a great world title match this year for Okada, which I think people have forgotten about already because it was in February. But this guy's incredible, and get him in the Tokyo Dome again. He needs to main event another Tokyo Dome.
Fair.
Last question here from the Dark Soldier. He says, I know every year that passes by comes less likely, but I feel it in my bones. Something Cody Rhodes. This year, the G in G1 will stand for Goto. I believe in Goto. I believe in him the same way I believed in Matt Menard and the Butcher last Wednesday on Dynamite. Seriously, AEW is a dog expletive company by allowing Vanilla, Midget Spot Monkeys, Cole, and MJF to beat that star-studded tag team, and JPW will succeed where AEW failed. Are you with me?
What is this unhinged question?
I am uncomfortable.
I think it's the way Jeremy's reading it.
I don't think so. I think it's. I mean, I'm sure you're a fine person. Whatever your handle is,
Dark Soldier.
Dark Soldier. I've heard your name before. What? Why are you so mean?
This was a stream of consciousness question, is what this was.
Did this come in 4 separate tweets, like the wackos that are in a Discord that just like?
No, it was one big Reddit post.
Wow. Okay. I don't remember.
To boil it down to its nuts and bolts, no, Goto is not winning the G1.
I think the G in G1 stands for Gene Blast.
Oh, who's that?
Oh.
Tsuji.
I forgot.
Oh.
That's his nickname.
How could you forget
The Gene Blast, baby.
I mean, we got a lot of bad nicknames in the A block. Son of Strong Style, like cosplay Ren Narita. You know, like that's. I don't know if I would highlight all that. But Gene Blast is a premium nickname.
They should
a premium Puro nickname.
They need to make a shirt for him that says Gene Blast, but it needs to be in the style of the AJ Styles TNA shirt. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, just Google AJ Styles.
That's brilliant.
TNA shirt.
You need to design that and get it to someone's hand.
I don't know how to work our Twitter. I'm not going to know how to design a Gene Blast shirt.
Zach Porter, if you're listening.
Don't Google that.
Oh, man. All right, so we have the first 2 nights of G1 Climax this weekend. Let's go through these cards real quick.
Speaking of Climax.
Oh, boy.
Hey-o.
And both of these nights will be free on njpwworld.com. So if you are new in New Japan, you watch Forbidden Door, you saw some cool Japanese guys and you're like, hey, I want to watch this New Japan thing. Well, you can watch the first 2 nights of G1 Climax for free. Just create an account on njpwworld.com.
You don't even need an account.
Oh, you don't even need an account. Just log in for free, hit that play button, and watch some awesome G1. So on night 1, it's going to be A and B block night. So opening up, we got El Phantasmo versus Yoshihashi from the B block. From the A block, Chase Owens versus Gabe Kidd. From the B block, Kenta versus Tangaloa. From the A block, Shota Umino versus Ren Narita. From the B block, Kazuchika Okada versus Great Okan. From the A block, Kaito Kiyomiya versus Yota Tsuji. From the B block in the semi-main event, we have Taichi versus Will Ospreay. And then the main event will be the world champion Sanada versus Hikuleo. And then night 2 will be a C and D block night. So we'll open up with C block with Tomohiro Ishii versus Dave Finlay. Then from the D block, we'll have Toru Yano versus Hiroki Goto. From the C block, we'll have Mikey Nichols versus Aaron Henare. From the D block, we'll have Shane Hayes versus Alex Coughlin. From the C block, Eddie Kingston versus Shingo Takagi. From the D block, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Zack Sabre Jr. Then the semi-main event from the C block will be Tama Tonga versus Evil. And then the main event from the D block, Tetsuya Naito versus Jeff Cobb. So some pretty stacked cards here for the first 2 nights.
Those are good. Yeah, these are really good cards. Kind of awkward, odd main events, right? If I just separate out all the main events, it's just such a strange run of matches. I don't think it's out of the question that Sanada and Hikuleo match is an upset. Like now, after we kind of talked through it, and now that I kind of have my wits about what the weekend looks like, damn, they like to do an early tournament upset. So I'm not ruling it out. But yeah, those are going to be great. The crowds in Hokkaido are usually pretty good. And I think this is going to be an exciting G1 where people are excited to get in there and, cheer and be vocal and be a hot crowd. And I think that, the ticket sales are already pretty strong for most of these nights. So I think we're going to see, a classic G1 tournament. I think the wrestlers are really motivated and, these first 2 nights are really going to set the tone, I think. And I'm super excited to, wake my ass up at whatever 2 or 3 in the morning and watch live with all you Shin Nihon freaks, as you like to be called.
I mean, it's the first 2 nights. Typically, this is where some of the biggest upsets and craziest things occur during the tournament. So, sort of expecting some of that to take place. And I mean, the two matches that stand out to me that I'm really looking forward to on these two nights, Kiyomiya versus Tsuji really stands out to me on night one. Mm-hmm. And then Eddie Kingston and Shingo Takagi on night two. Honorable mention for Taichi and Will Ospreay.
Yeah, all those going to be great. So yeah, looking forward to kicking off the tournament this weekend. Will be fun to watch. It's free, so again, if you don't have an account, you can watch it, and if you love it, pay $6 a month and get you in on this tournament. It's going to be awesome.
So in the news here, moving on, the New Japan Academy Showcase is now up on YouTube. So, Jeremy, we're going to cover that next week's episode, right?
We can.
Oh, I was just playing. And then last bit of news, light news week, but Michael Oku did defeat Great O'Khan to become the new Rev Pro British champion. So that did happen. And we got some questions. We're going to get out of here.
Yeah, from Ready User Dramatic Post 7495 says, I enjoyed your analysis of CM Punk at Forbidden Door. I think he really proved that he can hang with the New Japan dads. What do you think his ceiling would be if he joined New Japan proper? GHC champion?
If CM Punk came to New Japan and was like really serious about it, he'd probably be like in the title picture or the world champion very quickly.
He could obviously pop in and do like Jericho style programs.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, for the big shows. And that would, I would love for someone from AEW to kind of do that again, like consistently drop in for, you know, Dominion, you know, Ryogoku in October and Tokyo Dome. You know, I think that would be neat, but you know, they're busy over there. They got a lot going on. They got a lot of TV time to fill, and they're all trying to make $1 billion or whatever. So like, I get it, but it would be cool if someone like stepped aside for 3 weekends or 3 days out of the year and like built some programs that were like story driven, not just dream matchy, but yeah. And I think that's what Punk would be capable of, also because he's such a good storyteller that he could do that with one appearance to build it and then the match. And I think that would be really neat if he was up to doing the travel, or if he needed to, you know, disappear from AEW for a little while. But yeah, I don't see that being a likely path forward. But yeah, I think that would be his lane. And of course, you know, like a guy like Jericho even had an IWGP title match, right? So like you could get right into that title picture too.
Yeah. I think Jon Moxley could end up being that guy again that does some more programs. I mean, we saw him at Dominion, we saw him at, you know, New Japan Strong Independence Day. So I think he'll be a guy that we will start seeing again more now that, you know, the travel's kind of cleared up and he's being very selective about his independent date. So I think we could see him more later this year and going into next year. But yeah, if Punk came to New Japan, yeah, he would definitely be seen as a top star. I mean, I don't know how great the matches would be, but he would end up being in that main event picture.
The thing is, in 2011, CM Punk cut the pipe bomb promo, and in that promo, he said, I might even go to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Liar. He has never been and never will be in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
I wouldn't say never. I bet he'll show up at some point.
I doubt it.
Last set of questions here from Dark Soldier. First, he says, hey, young boy, last week you talked about how you like wrestlers wearing American flag shorts. I'm listening to you guys with my American shorts this week. Do I get your approval?
Sure. These Dark Soldier questions are unhinged this week.
He says, it's always cool seeing that junior heavyweight Alex Zane, such a junior, unlike that heavyweight Yujiro Takahashi, right?
It's not even a question. He's just making statements now.
Then he says
Zane's he's going to start tagging with Lance Archer. The junior thing for Zane is over.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
am I wrong?
I would think so. Yeah.
I hope they actually do that tag team, because
unless we're going to be an open weight tag team and challenge the War Dogs for the strong open weight tag titles.
Oh. Yeah, you might be onto something there.
It's not about weight divisions. It's about
that could be fun too. That could be a really good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here for that. I like your booking.
Thank you. Let's see. His next question said, did Jon Moxley find his life partner when he saw JR Kratos bleed the way he did during the Independence Day shows?
No, he found her in the backstage at WWE.
What?
He's married to Renee Paquette. Get it together, Dark Soldier.
These are so crazy.
I know Jeremy's got this policy of like reading every question and comment that comes in, but man,
Yeah, Jeremy,
if ever.
You might want to rethink your policy.
Well, here's his last question for the week. He says, whatever happened to Makabe? He doesn't show up as much as he used to. Even the dads and Hanma wrestle more than he does now. What happened?
That's a fine question. Also, my understanding was that he tried to get really way more into like traditional acting, and that's what he was up to. But I don't know. He's probably doing fine somewhere, just relaxing, not taking bumps.
I heard he got into drugs.
No, you didn't.
Keeping a strong style reports.
Yeah. Y'all got to be careful. People listen to this shit now.
Dude, it's always funny. Like Josh is so surprised when like people like pick our stuff up. He's like, "What? Like, how is this happening?"
I'm not just
this
surprised. I'm seriously bothered by it.
This man messaged me on one of the many messaging apps that I have an open line of communication with Josh on, and he's like, "Bro, how did everyone find this interview we did with Robbie Eagles?" And I was like, Josh, it's you do a public podcast that like hundreds, maybe 1,000 plus people download every week. Like, people listen. And also you had an interview, really good interview with Robbie Eagles on it. So of course people listen to it. He was like, yeah, but everyone listened to it and everyone posted something about it. I was like, let me explain to you aggregation. I was like, one person listened to it probably at like 3 times speed because they wanted to be the first person to get the quotes. And then everyone else just copy and pasted from them. That's the internet now.
I didn't know if it was AI, okay?
Well, Chris, at least you explained to him. He asked in our group chat and we all just like...
You guys just trolled me.
See, well, I'm kind of a teacher at heart, if you can't tell with all the stuff I do and trying to bring people into communities that I'm a part of. So I try to be kind to someone who has a legitimate and honest question. Plus, aggregation is bullshit, and anyone who does it should be fired from whatever they're doing, and they should never make a cent off of it, so they can all kiss my ass.
That's my problem. I feel like they made money off of us.
They absolutely made more money than you made on that podcast, probably.
That's what I'm saying.
No offense,
that doesn't
but
seem right.
I know what my balance sheet looks like when I appear.
So. Well, let's close.
We used to operate in what I called the circle of trust, where I thought everything that was said here was understood that it stayed here.
No, I'm gonna have to get off this podcast and send Kevin an email apologizing for your ass.
But then people just take it, they run with it, whatever.
Oh, so sad for you. You have an audience.
We have a popular podcast that people actually listen to and take quotes from.
I don't do this podcast for them. I do it for you and me, Jeremy.
Oh, man. Well, let's close off here with a recommended match of the week. So last week for the excursion match, I recommended Desperado versus Willie Mack from Ring of Honor.
This was fine, but I'm starting to kind of see a trend here where matches that are happening in ROH are cool and they're good, but they're not given a lot of time and the crowds are kind of dead. And it's sort of similar to when a recommended match takes place in Impact. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're intriguing, but it's not anything that's going to that you need to go out of your way and catch. It was cool seeing Desperado and Willie Mack, and I thought the match was, interesting. But a lot of athleticism, fast-paced, good chemistry. Some points it got a little clunky, but first time meeting, they might have another match that's better between them down the line, I suppose. Although Willie Mack doesn't seem to get the opportunities to work on the higher levels, which he should. He's fantastic. But if you just want to look for a little hidden gem match, this one's pretty awesome. I'd probably go 3.5, but it's not anything that you need to, it's going to blow you away or anything like that.
Gotcha. Then for the recommended match, you recommended Shinjiro Otani versus Eddie Guerrero from WCW. in the World Cup, and that was a really fun matchup. Man, Otani, just the way he springboards, his springboard drop kicks and his springboard planchas are just so crisp, especially for that time period, like late 90s. But yeah, it was a solid matchup. Eddie was babyface. Otani was, of course, the heel, coming from the evil Japan, and they're doing the big World Cup thing and fighting for brand supremacy. Commentary was hilarious with Dusty, Shivani, and Brain. They had some just funny back and forth stuff, but ultimately this was your very solid wrestling match. Great psychology, great holds, and Otani ended up getting the win. I'm probably 3.5, 3.75 on it. It was a very good matchup. Just I think I would have wanted a little bit faster pace, but overall, I mean, both guys are great wrestlers and had some good stuff, especially for that time period.
Cool. Well, this week, I am going to be doing the excursion match of the week, and I am recommending Yuji Nagata versus Yuma Aoyagi for the All Japan Triple Crown Championship from July 2nd.
Nice.
It's real good.
Well, then for the recommended match of the week, since last week you went WCW, this week I'm going MLW.
Oh, God.
And we're going back to 2002. Satoshi Kojima against Jerry Lynn for the vacant MLW World Championship from MLW Reload.
I've heard that the world of MLW never stops.
It doesn't.
Can you confirm?
They might win a lawsuit against WWE.
I heard, yeah.
Am I going to have to go to IVF video and
No, it's on.
No, that's on YouTube.
It's on the
right?
MLW YouTube, yeah. I'll send the link.
Also good. Both of those matches you guys both recommended. I've seen them both. They're both very good.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, Chris, thanks again for joining us for another G1 preview. I'm probably going to need to pull you in when I'm on my big lavish trip in Europe in a couple of weeks.
Ooh, I thought you might ask. We'll see. We'll see. The last time we tried that,
I'll figure out how to do it.
Josh and I spent a long time. I mean, I know how to do it. I just can't do it for 3 hours. There's a snip to take out of that for sure. We'll talk. We'll work out some deals.
Yeah. So, Chris, go ahead and tell our listeners where they can find you online and everything you got going on right now.
God, where do you find anyone online anymore? Twitter's dead. No, I don't know. Yeah, great question. I don't know where I'm gonna pop up throughout this tournament. I have some content that I'm sure I'll want some people to see. I'm working on a little bit more of a public facing version of the document that I use to build previews. So we're working on turning sportofprowrestling.com into kind of a build your own preview thing, which could be neat if it pans out. So I don't know that that'll be up by the end of the G1, but ultimately you can find me on Twitter at the Chris Samsa. And my content will pop up, in various places that I've kind of built relationships with around the internet, depending on kind of timing and kind of, the level of detail and who wants it. So I can't guarantee I'm going to have anything up at the New Japan site. I would imagine at some point during the tournament, I'll drop something their way, but you might find me over at Voices of Wrestling or sportofprowrestling.com. But the best place to keep up is Twitter at the Chris Samsa.
Oh, what about the threads?
I do have threads. So you can catch me there too, but we're going to see which of these next generation social medias catches on before I really commit to anything. But I also don't think Twitter's actually going to die. I think it's just going to be a pain in the ass for the, remainder of Elon Musk's existence.
Yeah.
I heard you were on Parler and Truth Social as well.
Why I'm going to tell you when you're telling lies. Like CM Punk. And it's a lot. I have very few social medias. The only reason I did the threads thing is because it was a button on my Instagram. I was like, sure. And then I was like, shit. I guess now I'm in. And I've always used Instagram for I don't know, pictures of dogs, like I don't use it for my wrestling life. Not that I necessarily segment my life off, but like it's a little bit of an awkward combo now. So we'll see what pans out. I'm there. If you want to find me, hit me up. I don't care. I'll hit you back. It all ends in the same place. It's this little thing that lives in my pocket. So who cares?
On Truth Social, we're at KI Strong Style.
No.
You all are in Florida, so nothing would surprise me.
Oh man. Well, all right, that's gonna wrap things up for us this week. Next week we'll be back to review the first 2 nights of the G1 Climax 33. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, we are at KI Strong Style. You can follow the network at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Threads, we do have Keeping a Strong Style at KI Strong Style. You follow the network at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan on Threads. Facebook.com/Social Suplex. Also the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, Facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, Dr. Keeping a Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences, hosted by Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd and Austin. The AW Match Guide, hosted by Sir Sam. And the Great Match Generator, hosted by Danny Kukler. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we'll catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Hit your bum.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.